No. We'll just do this. Warning. This episode may contain spoilers for the war movies. F*** off.
Yep. You can't say fuck off because in the first 30 seconds, Doujin.
No.
G'day, everybody, and welcome back to the Admiralty podcast. It is indeed your boy, Animarchy, here hosting once again, incredibly, the favorite podcast of everybody, supposedly an Azure Lane podcast, though we kind of forget about that. And today I am, of course, joined by the two gentlemen, the original Omega Casual Gangster, who's over here, and we also have Doujin Peasant 69.
Peasant? Why does my name change every episode?
Because it's a running gag now and you just have to deal with it. That and the fact is we just reviewed each other's My Anime list and I'm calling you a peasant.
Mine's cute. There's nothing wrong with
you put your spicy manga and spicy anime on your mouth. I mean, I don't know whether to give you points for being a Chad or just like shake my head at the degeneracy. But anyway, that's not the topic we're discussing today.
Yes.
You got that topic last week. And last week's episode, if I may say, gentlemen, was an absolute banger. I've been hounding you guys to publish it. You were late. But that's because we had production issues.
First of all, it's not my problem, right? It's OC's PC and his shitty RAM.
It's not my fault that you use a different editing software to me. You use 2022 and I use 2018.
Because it's 2022, mate.
But my PC can't run 2022. It can only run 2018.
My God.
Man's running on a pedal-powered computer. Anyway, we're back, and like, here is the thing, boyos. Here is the thing. This is going to be a great episode. Because today we're talking about our favorite World War II movies.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Doujin doesn't watch a lot of World War II movies. He apparently only reads...
I don't even watch movies in general.
Man watches anime, he watches hentai, and he reads spicy manga. That's it. That's all he does.
Yeah.
Man is truly like he lives up to his name. He lives up to his name, which he should in fact change to Doujin God 69 at this point because of the amount of content that he consumes in that department. But in any case, no. It's really what this episode is going to be. If you remember the last major episode we did that we had our guest on Azure Lane Meta, it turned into a conversation between Meta and myself. Now, welcome to this episode where it'll be a conversation between me and OC, basically.
Yeah. Alright, can I go to I'm gonna go to edit episode 4 title now. So
yeah. You're gotta edit the episode 4 title. Yeah. While he's doing that, we need to get started. So, World War II movies. Would you like to read out your list for us, OC?
Okay, so my list was Kelly Zero's, my favorite World War II film, Sing the Bismarck, and what was the other one I said? Das Boot. That was it. No. That one.
No.
Dude, absolute banger.
Yeah.
Doujin's was some Finnish
film.
The
Unknown Soldier.
The Unknown Soldiers. Big up the Finn.
A 3-hour-long film, which is hard to follow.
Big up the Finns.
And
I mean, look, Finns are Chads. Like we're not gonna knock it. And I believe it's that film that has, because I didn't get a chance to watch it. I watched the others with some friends of mine. Didn't watch The Unknown Soldier, which is really stupid of me because of all the ones on this list, The Unknown Soldier is the only one I hadn't watched at all. I just rewatched all of these other ones because I liked them. But I do remember that The Unknown Soldier, I think it's that one that has that really cool clip of these Finnish troops with a Panzerfaust trying to take down a KV-1. No. I'm pretty sure. No. Oh, is that a different one?
That's a different film entirely.
Oh yeah. Well, in which case, sorry, Doujin, big rips. Your film's terrible.
There was a T-34 scene in this film. Two T-34 scenes in it.
Look, you can buy those heaps of shit from just about anywhere. If you don't have a T-34 in your World War II film, even if it's not even a T-34, it's laughing as a tiger.
Here's what I liked about the T-34 in this film is that they actually, because you see it mainly from, because like the film White Tiger and T-34, you see it from the hero's perspective, and you see the tiger as a big bad tank. Whereas in this Finnish war film, you actually see the T-34 from the Finnish perspective, and this is like a big bad fucking tank. It turns up like a fucking beast machine, and they're absolutely petrified of it.
Because it is. You can't.
And they're literally yelling Perkele throughout the whole film.
It's not Perkele, it's Perkele. For fuck's sake,
that's what the film should be renamed, because I literally watched it, and within like the first minute, the guy's like, sees some more training and goes, God damn it, Perkele. And then it's like, I'm like, okay, that's once. Then I see it twice, okay, 3, 4, 5. And then literally at one point, there's literally a general shouting, yelling at a tank, shooting it with a pistol, yelling, Perkele, 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 again and again. It should have just been called Perkele, the movie.
What? Translate to Satan the movie.
Satan the movie.
Great.
So, seriously, like, the only Finnish war movie I remember watching, and I can barely remember it, is Talvisota. Yeah, and it's like, and the reason that is because it was like this massive smash hit Finnish war film. It was like the big Finnish war film, and it was really good. Like the T-26s rolling through the snow, trying to breach the Mannerheim line, and all this crazy shit. It was pretty cool. On reflection, though, we got to talk about my list, and my list shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Like OC, I've got my favorite movie from a historical perspective, my favorite movie from a cool perspective, and my favorite movie overall, which is just because it's fun, right? Similar, I was actually kind of giggling at how similar OC's approach to mine was, because OC's got Kelly's Heroes, like his favorite and fun. He's got Das Boot, which is just the best film of World War II from the German perspective, really, anywhere, honestly. And you have Sink the Bismarck, which is a classic, a titan of British cinema, which I actually watched an hour before recording this, again, with a friend of mine. So, absolute titan of British cinema. Mine is, of course, Battle of Britain, obviously. Come on. I'm an aviation historian first and foremost, and so, yes, absolute classic. Also, a titan of British cinema of the era. Letters from Iwo Jima, one of the greatest films ever made, telling World War II from the Japanese perspective. So there's your equivalent to Das Boot. And then finally, most important, the raw fun World War II movie, which is of course Inglourious Basterds. Because I am always about killing Nazis with baseball bats. Absolutely based. Absolutely based. Also blowing up a cinema with Hitler in it and killing the entire general staff with machine gun fire and changing history entirely. Like, bro, like, I mean, kind of, if you haven't seen Inglourious Basterds, I would assume you've already seen it, but I just spoiled the plot for you. But hey, who cares? Like, if you're watching a podcast about movies, like...
It's been around since 2007. You know, come on. You gotta watch it by now.
A, it's a Tarantino film, and B, it's a World War II film. And if you are any kind of cinema fan or any kind of World War II fan, you would have had to have seen Inglourious Basterds by now. So I don't care about spoilers. But yeah, it's just the ridiculousness of the premise. It's kind of like Kelly's Heroes, where it's like the ridiculousness of the premise is what sets it apart. So,
but it has
the question, let's be real. Brad Pitt in that movie is way funnier than he has any right to be. Like the scene where they're infiltrating the cinema as Italian cameramen, and he's like, "Buongiorno."
Yeah, Golami.
And I guess we're kind of leading into it already. So, like, okay, so OC. Before I run away and steal the show again, let's be real. Which one do you want to start with? Which movie?
Well, on the topic of Inglourious, so we'll probably talk about Inglourious Basterds.
Inglourious Basterds. So, first off, I think there's one thing we can agree out the gate. This movie is not Inglourious Basterds. It's not. It's not Quentin Tarantino. It's not Brad Pitt. Inglourious Basterds is the Christoph Waltz show.
Yes.
It's the Hans Lander show, and we're just invited.
Yes.
It's the Hans Lander show, and we're just watching because I don't think there is a movie on this list, or really ever, where someone has stolen the movie that hard.
Especially when it's the antagonist that stole the movie
Yeah.
from the protagonist. Because
Yeah,
Brad Pitt's the protagonist, sort of, and he gets the show stolen by Colonel SS Hans Landa.
Yeah, like Shoshana, Brad Pitt, Bridget von Hammersmark. You've got all these characters who are really strong, really coming on the scene, right? Hans Landa is like, I think reading back on it, like watching the movie so often, like 90% of the movie is Brad Pitt and the Bastards. It's Michael Fassbender doing an amazing performance. It's all these different things, right? You got all these different moments between the Bastards, between Bridget von Hammersmark, between Shoshana running her cinema, talking to Goebbels, and her relationship with Friedrich Zoller, the heroic sniper who won the medal, who got a movie made out of him, right? All these things. They are all throughout the movie. Those characters collectively make up 80% of the movie. Hans Landa is in like maybe 15 minutes of this movie, and he steals every single scene he's in, to the extent that he is the most memorable character from the whole movie. Like, he is the only, like, if you look at Inglourious Basterds on YouTube, like clips from the movie,
It'll always be Hans Landa.
it's always Hans Landa's scenes.
If you look on TikTok or edits for Inglourious Basterds, it will always be Hans Landa edits.
Yeah, right? And he's such a compelling villain. And the reason why is because he nails the sort of, to use a French term, which I hate, but the je ne sais quoi, as it were. He nails the je ne sais quoi of the aristocratic Nazi, if you like. Like, he's affable, he's charming, he's kind, he's, oh yes, hello, let me I'll give you a cigarette, oh, I'll order your drinks for you, and all that sort of thing. But at the same time, every single move he does, every single thing he says is a piece on the chessboard for him, and he is just waiting for the moment to strike. And once he finds the moment, he turns into the most cruel and vicious enemy you've ever seen. Like, the moment he flips the switch, like in that opening scene with Monsieur Lapidite in the farm, like the moment he goes in for the kill, literally and figuratively, in the interrogation, trying to find out where the Jews are hiding in the building, he just changes from the smiling joking tone, and he just switches.
Yeah, and what's great about it is that the guy could have sort of got away with it, but the fact is he was able to manipulate him and convince Monsieur Lapetite. He used threats, but they weren't like, oh yeah, if you don't fucking tell us right now, we're gonna kill your whole family. It was just so subtle the way he said, and the way in which he manages to get into Monsieur Lapetite and get him to reveal where the Jews are.
Yeah, like Christoph Waltz's performance is just fucking incredible. Like, the subtlety of the performance, the way, the sort of cheerful, jovial menace. Like, he's a really charming and friendly guy who secretly you can feel underneath the evil of this man. He is pure evil incarnate. He is the most self-serving, servile, vicious Nazi that you can possibly meet. Like, to the extent that he's willing to betray his entire ideology, he's willing to murder the entire general staff, he's willing to kill Hitler, Goering, Himmler, whoever. He's willing to kill all of them just to protect his own position. And
also, so, going back to how he switches, the work bit with Bridget von Hammersmark with the shoe, and the way in which it's so, there's no music, there's no build-up, there's no, nothing. It's just talking, and he gets her to get the shoe, and he knows it's her, and then she says, what next? And then suddenly he just switches from like this calm whatever man to just suddenly get on top of her and starts choking her to death. And that's great about Hans Landa.
Which is another thing. It's the dichotomy of the evil and self-obsession of this man, right? Because he kills Bridget von Hammersmark out of rage because of her act of betrayal. Yet 5 minutes later, he blows up Himmler and Goebbels.
And the fact is, he puts a fucking bomb directly under Goebbels' chair.
Come on. All I'm saying is, man, if Hans Landa was on the case instead of Klaus von Stauffenberg, that plan would have been... money, right? But in all seriousness, though,
and the depicted terror and fit. So the scene in which Goebbels says, Landa Zinzia. And he's just the way when he turns up at the restaurant, and Shoshana's there, and the way in which you hear just the click of the boots and the music, the dum 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 music plays as he introduces himself to Shoshana. And that entire scene is amazing with Landa, because the fact is, did he know that Shoshana was a Jew? Because I think he did. I think he knew that
almost certainly. Almost certainly.
Because he was toying with her. He ordered milk for her, to wipe it in her face, to remind her what happened.
Yeah, and dude, he was just you could tell that he probably suspected it, but at the same time, he was like, "Nah, I'm gonna let this play out. How can I use this to my advantage?" There was a great video essay on it, which was called "Does Hans Landa Know?" And it was one of those great video essays on film that you find on occasion, where basically the entire tension of a scene that Tarantino builds up in every scene that he's in is the question of, does Hans Landa know, or what is Hans Landa's game plan here? What is he trying to achieve? What is his machinations? Because one thing that's common throughout the entire film, Hans Landa always has a machination or a scheme in progress. He's always scheming. He's always thinking. He's always a step ahead. And then, as I said, we've been talking for 10 minutes already or whatever, and all of it's been about Hans Landa, right? So, that should give you an idea of just, how much. And just on a technical perspective, think about it this way. You have a German actor who no one ever heard really much of before outside of Austria and Germany, right? And here he comes in playing the best played villain in history, in my opinion. In cinema history, he is the best ever villain performance, at least for me. And he does it in 4 different languages. He does it in French, he does it in Italian, he does it in German, and he does it in English.
And what I also like is that I think it was a year later, he did the film Django Unchained. He's the good guy. And he's a good guy. It's a complete polar opposite of Hans Landa as a character.
And his performance in that was, again,
amazing.
Perfect. But the rest of the movie is just as good as that. I mean, it has one of my favorite depictions of violence in cinema history, which is the shootout in the cellar.
Yes, the shootout in the cellar is amazing. Because it goes on. Because it's like a 7-minute scene, isn't it? But it's like Quentin Tarantino. He can make a scene that's 5 minutes long last for a century,
dude.
And he does it with the cellar scene amazingly.
Yeah, the scene where they're in the cellar negotiating, they're playing the games, they're doing silly things, and then the agents arrive. Michael Fassbender and the 2 Germans arrive to talk to Bridget von Hammersmark. They get the intel. They get their party crashed by an SS officer and by the other Wehrmacht guys on leave there, right? They're all having a good time. Everything's cool. The SS officer comes up to investigate. He has his suspicions, and there's this tension again. This random SS officer, again, he's filling in for Hans Landa, but that performance from that German actor is the same. He's just...
And that's what I like about it, is that it depicts him as being suspicious and clever, as opposed to being dumb.
Yeah, that's the really interesting thing about it. It harnesses the evil of the Nazis, of the SS, while simultaneously giving them the sort of the credit that they deserve as villains to an extent, where they really are evil, sinister bastards.
And what I love about it is the scene where he gives away when he says 3 glasses.
Yeah,
and he looks and he's smiling. The SS guy looks at him and he's smiling, and then he sees the 3, and his face just suddenly drops because he realizes, oh shit, my suspicions are correct. He's a fucking spy. He's a spy, straight away, and he's sort of if you notice, he goes suddenly quiet. And they're putting the glasses on the table, and he's quiet, and he doesn't know what to do in that situation.
Yeah, but what's really great is how quick that scene snaps, because the moment the gunshot happens, which has one of my favorite lines in movie history, "Say goodbye to your Nazi balls," and just fucking shoots him, And then once that shot gets fired, the entire room explodes with bullets and everyone dies except Bridget and that one dude. It's so fucking great because they have this tense exchange between Willie and the bastards, right? They have this tense exchange, and you know for a fact that if the bastards do come down here and rescue Bridget, he cannot be allowed to leave because Bridget's cover is blown if he survives. So they have to kill him. Like there's no getting out of this situation. But there's this negotiation between the bastards and Willie, and they're talking it out, and they're just like all talking and talking and talking, and they're like,
and then
it's
the bit where he says, "If you kill her, we throw grenades down there." No, if I come down there, you shoot me, I'm dead. If I'm dead, grenades get thrown down here, then you're dead. And she's the way in which they're negotiating it.
Oh, hold on, now I'm coming down here, and you've got a machine pistol pointed at me, look, that's a Mexican standoff, and that was not the deal. And like the moment he's like, "Okay, I'll put my gun down," is like, "Now get this fucking traitor out of my sight," and Bridget just fucking gets him. I'm just like, man, you should have seen that coming, right? So, Inglourious Basterds, and again, this sort of like quality is just universal throughout the movie. Like it's just, you can pick a scene, like we've already been doing. You can pick a scene from Inglourious Basterds. Like Shoshana's scenes with Friedrich Zoller are great because you can feel the sort of awkwardness and the tension there. And again, it's with all the Nazis in this film, and every single one of them has their switch flip moment.
And the guy who plays Friedrich Zoller is an amazing actor, because this was again like how it was Christoph Waltz's big breakout film to American audiences. It was for him as well, I think. The guy who played Friedrich Zoller.
Yeah, because this was what got him on the radar to Ron Howard, and Ron Howard cast him as Niki Lauda in Rush, and it was really Daniel Bruhl. Yeah, you see, like I remember his name
in Marvel, and everyone fell in love with him in Marvel.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, honestly, Inglourious Basterds, like, the comedy moments are hilarious. Like Aldo Rain and the Bastards interrogating those dudes,
and the cuts as well. So there's one scene, I forgot what it was. They were talking about something, and then they talked about ambushing a thing, and it just cuts to them, Stiglitz and the others, just mowing down this staff car. And then it just sort of cuts back to them continuing talking. It was just a what the fuck moment.
Also, their cuts of the bastards breaking Hugo Stiglitz out of jail. Hugo Stiglitz murders several Nazi officers, and he like gets arrested awaiting trial and execution. But the bastards heard about him in prison and busted him out. It's like, well, we're the bastards. You heard of us? Yeah. It's like, well, we are big fans of your work, but your Nazi killing status is amateur. We're here to see if you want to go pro. And he's like, oh yeah, boys. It's just like, you've got this rakish, really dark comedy. And then you've got Michael Fassbender, like the Brits in this scene. You've got Mike Myers as like an OS, like an MI6 OSS field marshal. And you've got like Michael Fassbender. Yeah. He speaks fluent German as well, because Michael Fassbender's German English.
Wasn't this his big breakout film as well?
No, Michael Fassbender was in a couple of others.
Yeah, because he was in Band of Brothers. I know he was. But...
He was. I'm pretty sure it was. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if he was in X-Men before or after.
I think he might have been. Because he was pretty big on the scene. He was pretty big on the scene as well. Like he was in Band of Brothers. He was in the film Hunger. That's right. He was in The Hunger, right? That makes sense. And yeah, Inglourious Basterds was one of his first big movies. And that role in Inglourious Basterds, because he spoke German, and that is what got him cast as Magneto, as young Magneto, right? That makes sense. That's why. Yeah, that's right. Still, that scene with Michael Fassbender hunting the Nazis on the run as like a mutant survivor of the Holocaust, that was cool. Anyway, that's off topic. Point is, Inglourious Basterds is
great film, no flaws.
It's one of those few films I would say, like, Jeremy Johns, he's a movie reviewer, said it best. There are two types of Quentin Tarantino fan. There are either Quentin Tarantino fans who think Kill Bill was better than Inglourious Basterds, and Tarantino fans who think Inglourious Basterds was better than Kill Bill. I'm definitely the latter. Inglourious Basterds is probably one of the best films I've ever watched.
Not as good as Pulp Fiction, though.
Nothing's as good as Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction is one of the best films ever made, period, I think. But that's a discussion entirely for another day. Point is, as far as I can say, like, as a World War II movie, the thing's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not a good World War II movie, but it is a good World War II movie at the same time.
It's a fantastic World War... What it is it's like a Pulp Fiction crime flick, except the crime syndicates are the resistance fighters against the Nazis, and the side story with the boxer from Pulp Fiction is instead a Holocaust survivor trying to wreak vengeance on the Third Reich. And at the end of the day, the final climax of this movie, where you have all of the German high command trapped in a cinema in an alternate history who get blown up. So Himmler, Hitler, Goebbels, Goering, all those shitbirds get blown the fuck up. The war ends a year early. Everybody's happy.
All the eggs in one basket.
All the eggs in one basket. Special mission, blow up the basket.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. Like, Inglourious Basterds.
And what was great about it is that it was funny because I think I first watched it. How old were you when you first watched it?
I went to see it in the movie theater.
I think I was about 10-ish when I saw it. And I remember I found it on DVD and my parents were like, oh, you won't like it. It's all in foreign language. You won't like it. But I decided to give it a watch. I got a bit confused with who was alive, who was dead at the end. But I actually thoroughly enjoyed the film. I actually very much enjoyed the film. And in fact, it actually became sort of, me and my friends would actually quote it quite a lot in school. But we'd keep quoting, not the good bits, let's just say. Schnaps, schnaps, schnaps. It's rye traps, snaps.
I must admit, the greatest bit of all of this is that now that you mention it, it's giving me an existential crisis because, yeah, I did see this in the movie theater. I did see this in theaters. 2009, I would have been... Hang on. 2009, I would... the thing, I have to think about it. So it's 2009 is more than 10 years ago, so I would have had to have been around 15? 15, 16?
Doujin's having an exercise.
No, that's I was 15. Yeah. So I saw Inglourious Basterds in the movie theater. Yeah. So I went and saw it with my mates, and it was great. Absolutely fantastic. The idea that you saw it when you were 10 on DVD is giving me a little bit of a freak out, I'm going to be honest. But hey, I bought the DVD, like when it came out on DVD, my parents bought it for me from Christmas, I believe. And I watched it again. For some reason, one of my distinct memories is I remember one of the best Indian takeaways I ever got. I got from a curry place that shut down, unfortunately. But I remember it because I was watching Inglourious Basterds at the time I was eating this curry, and it was great. Butter chicken with chicken tikka masala, just bro. Way to go. But yeah, Inglourious Basterds. So, what next? Which one next?
Wait. You forgot to rate it. Rate it out of 10.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10, duh.
Alright. I'm gonna go back to my bed.
What is it? What should we do next? So we did Inglourious. So let's do my equivalent, Kelly's Heroes. Yay!
Yeah. Have a little faith, baby.
Negative ways, Moriarty. Which, speaking of which, how we talked about speaking of how we talked about how Hans Lander stole the show in Inglourious Basterds, there was one character, similar in Kelly's Heroes, there was one character that stole the show in that film, despite not being the main character.
Motherfucking oddball, the all-American hero.
fucking Ozball. The greatest American war hero.
Absolutely. When
Donald
we go on the
Sutherland's
battle,
performance in that is amazing, and that's why Donald Sutherland is an amazing actor. I would love to meet Donald Sutherland, and I would only talk to him. I don't give a fuck about all the other roles. I'd only talk to him about Achilles Hero. That would be the only thing I would talk to him about.
Which is a shame, really, because he's done 2 other big roles for me, which is his role as Mr. X in JFK.
Oh yeah,
with Kevin Costner.
That was good.
And the other one is Hawkeye Pierce in the movie adaptation of the original book of MASH. It was great. Donald Sutherland plays Hawkeye Pierce in the movie of MASH.
But
because like you remember like Alan Alda was Hawkeye in the TV series MASH, what everyone knows. But there was a movie adaptation of the book MASH before that, and Donald Sutherland played Hawkeye, and he was incredible. Like he was actually incredible in that movie. I didn't appreciate it much as a kid, but after rewatching MASH, it was 100%. But Kelly's Heroes though, you're right. Talk about steal the show. Don't hit me with them negative waves, Moriarty. If you've seen Kelly's Heroes, like everyone who's in the sort of, I guess, the World War II sort of fan base, for lack of a better term, like in terms of likes the movies, the animes, the games, everyone will know what you're quoting when you say don't hit me with them negative waves. Like I've said that so many times when everyone's like, when someone's being negative, I'm like, don't hit me with them negative waves so early in the morning, right? Like
I recreated one of the scenes whilst I was in Greece. Because when I went to Greece with my mates, I found out that they did wine, like red wine, for free, and they did food as well, but they did cheese as well. So I was outside in the sun with red wine and cheese, and my friend was like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, just drinking wine, eating cheese, catching some rays,
having a good time." When we go to battle, we play music very, very loud.
It kind of calms us down. We like to shoot paint at the tanks and make pretty pictures.
Scares the hell out of people. Well, I ain't going anywhere. Tanks busted. Why aren't you up there helping them? Oh, I'm just riding them, man. That don't fix it.
And the way in which it's like, tell us about it, I him like, who's helping you? And he's like, Oddball. And he's like, Oddball, he's a nut.
Dude, but that's the thing, though. The Sherman scenes in Kelly's Heroes are fucking wild, man. They're so good. And can we talk about the fact of how good the bodge job on those T-34s was to make them look like tigers?
I think this was the first time they ever did that, I believe. And they did a really good job. It was obviously to save, because they didn't want to build a full replica, so they did it to save money. And they were cheap and to get for the film. But they did an absolutely amazing job with making them actually look like tigers.
Yeah. There was only one part of that movie which really threw me off, and I didn't notice it originally when I watched it. But when I watched it back the other day, because I did rewatch Kelly's Heroes again with my friend who I showed Sink the Bismarck. When I rewatched Kelly's Heroes, you know the sniper scene when they're in the tower getting ready to start the ambush and they've got the sniper up there? I was a little bit confused because I had to pause the video and watched it back. I didn't know why this American sniper had a Mosin Nagant as his sniper rifle.
I don't know.
He doesn't have a Springfield. He has a Mosin Nagant. And I saw the PU scope and the bolt and the Mosin, and I was like, hang on a minute, is that Mosin? And I was like, oh yeah, it is. Because they filmed it in Yugoslavia. They filmed it like to get the French village. They filmed it in Yugoslavia because it was like cheaper to film there, and also because it had like Greek and French and like Mediterranean mountain village with the stucco roofs and everything like that. And they filmed it all there, and it was really, really, really well done. Like Kelly's Heroes, for being a sort of comedic war film, a dark comedic war film, and a heist movie. It's one of those weird ones where the combat sequences in it are actually really good. Like the battle scenes in Kelly's Heroes are amazingly good for the kind of movie it is. And it's also great because it's so self-aware as to who's in it. Like it doesn't take itself too seriously. Like the fact that it plays a pantomime version of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly when freaking when Clint Eastwood steps out to stare down the tiger, and like freaking like oddball turns the Luger sideways in the holster to like do all that sort of thing, and they just sort of walk towards the tank. It's just like,
and it slowly lowers its barrel down to them as they're approaching.
And it's playing like that Western music, and they're marching in step, like ding, 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 ding. And it's like really great. Like, also, go ahead.
And speaking of the soundtrack, it's got one of the best songs for a war film.
Burning Bridges.
Amazing song. It's fantastic. It's synonymous with Kelly's Heroes. The opening to Kelly's Heroes is amazing. It's the opening, the way they use the song, and the way they use the song throughout the film is amazing. And at the end, it's such a good fucking song to listen to and a theme for a war film. And what I also like about Kelly's Heroes is that to me it was made in the perfect period. Because after World War II, all the films that came out, American films, all the American war films were like, yeah, we kicked ass, and oh yeah, it depicts like, it's like, what's the film I'm thinking of? The one in the mountains. Broadsword Calling Danny Boy. What's it called? Where Eagles Dare.
Where Eagles Dare. There we go.
It's like that scene, one scene, it's like she depicts like Clint Eastwood like murdering 100 Nazis in a tight alleyway. Every war film on America, right after the war in the 50s, 60s, were basically that. It was like Americans just slaughtering Germans and Japanese and stuff. And then, obviously, as we get towards the 90s and the noughties, it was just depression. It's like, oh, my brother's died, and I've got to help Tom Hanks defend this village, and I'm upset, and everyone dies at the end, credits roll. But Kelly's Heroes was made in this perfect point where it wasn't to everyone dies at the end, but it wasn't to, yeah, glory, America, we're better, shows like droves of people dying. It was perfectly balanced, and that's why, to me, it's probably the perfect war film, to me, and it's one of my favorites.
I mean, yeah, it does ride that weird line while being like, it's a dark, it's a dark commentary. It's a dark comedy and a commentary on war itself in a weird way. And it does, like, there are big highs, big lows. The general especially is great because the senior officers on both sides throughout the entire film are ridiculed. Like, they're shown as treating it like a game. Like they're talking nonsense. And Maitland, or my favorite scene is Maitland, the guy whose uncle is the general or whatever. Maitland is like, don't fool around with the local women, and the penalty for looting is death. As he's looting a yacht.
As he's driving around with a yacht. It's hilarious.
It's like, it does this great thing of like, the general is like, treating it like a football game. We gotta gain ground, like we're gonna get the touchdown, and we're gonna on the 5-yard line. We're gonna be heroes.
Go, yeah.
And then it cuts to the front line, and people are dying. There's a tank on fire. There's huge shit going down. And it's like, man, that film has got so many layers on it. It's so well made too.
And what I love about it is the villain of the story, the German tank commander. Is that it's not them like, oh, we're going to one tiger left and they all just ambush it and kill the guy. No, they actually let the guy live, and they also cooperate with the guy. He uses his tiger turret to blow open the door to the bank vault at the end, and he gets some of the gold, and they share it evenly, and they ride off. They literally ride off into the sunset. They quite literally ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, right. It's one of those great moments in cinema. It's actually a really good piece of comedic filmmaking because it's like, hey, we're just soldiers. We don't know what this war is about. We don't really care. Look, you know what's in that bank, baby? There's $60 million worth of gold in that bank, baby.
And his eyebrow just raises, then it cuts to a scene of the bank.
It's like, you know how much that is? That's about 65 million marks. And all you have to do to get an equal share of this money is to turn that turret around, blow a hole through that door, and there's a establishing shot of of them staring at each other, and then it just instantly cuts to the bank door exploding. It's just like, but the thing is, Crap Game, who's been a whingy piece of shit through the entire movie, he's been the kind of antagonist comic relief villain through the entire movie. He's a rat. He's just here to make money, right?
Mm.
It's his idea at the end that gets them the win because he's like, business is business, right? Make a deal. He's like, oh yeah. They go and talk to him and they get the money and ride off into the sunset. And Oddball buys the tiger off the ship.
And he's like, it's a piece of junk. And he's like, always with the negative waves, Moriarty.
It's another beautiful tank, man. It's a beautiful tank. It's like, it's like, look, the trade for the uniforms I can understand. And to be fair, Hugo Boss, like, money uniform. But to buy this tank, you gotta be crazy. It's like, it's another beautiful tank, man. It's great. No, that line, it's a beautiful tank, man. You gotta go, look, if we think the bridge gonna be there, it'll be there. We believe there's gonna be a bridge, it's gonna be there, okay?
And then it shows them looking at the bridge. The binoculars is like, it's still up. And then these like, and these planes just blow up.
Oh, the theory, I got a map around here that says we haven't captured the story. Look, the maps look so screwed up. No one knows where the front lines are. Look, hey, look, man, you want in this thing, you don't get in this thing. I can find 60 feet of bridge almost anywhere, schmuck.
And then he's like, he's like, where am I going to get the manpower and stuff? And then he just sees like a marching band behind him.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like, he steals the show, and then every time, it's just such good comedic writing, because just when you think the heroes are up shit creek, their vehicles are all fucked, the tanks arrive, and they've got a marching band and an entire column with them.
And then, and he shoots a random, you can hear him in the distance, and he's like, fire, and he shoots a shot just to, like, celebrate, and the fucking band turns up.
Yeah, but, like, the thing is, right, after all of this sort of, like, shenanigans, there's also combat sequences, like, it's actually a masterpiece of cinema, actually, in one sense, because when the tanks come out of that train tunnel to get across the bridge and get through and meet up with Kelly, like, there's that combat sequence where the three Shermans break through and just gun down this whole...
And music's just playing.
And there's just music playing, and they've rigged the camera to the turret, and you're following the guns around, and the cannon...
Seeing it blows up one building, it moves over to the right, blows up another building.
It's really great cinematography, really, and like it's just like really well done. And the fact of that whole thing is the ultimate irony being that Kelly's heist by accident has achieved the breakthrough. I suppose it's supposed to be analogous to Operation Cobra, like punching the lions on the flank, right? Basically, Kelly, by doing this heist, has started Operation Cobra by complete accident. So the Americans achieve this breakthrough and start taking territory again after being bogged down in the Bocage for months, right? All because these guys are just trying to start a heist. And their commanding officer chases up with them to try and find them. And they just find, fuck you, we've left. And they've got the gold. They ride off into the sunset. Brilliant. Just, honestly, the soundtrack is fire. The cinematography is fire. Oddball is a Chad. Clint Eastwood is Clint Eastwood, like, seriously.
Telly Savalas. We ain't got no booze. We'll get some.
Booze. Harry Savalas, Don Sickles, you got another couple of good people. Can't remember their names off the top of my head. You had a who's who.
But going back to Oddball again, his character is such an icon because of Oddball. Because there was Mega Bloks did this Call of Duty set series, and one of the Call of Duty sets was a Sherman tank. And the character who is a tank commander, guess what he looks like?
He looks like Oddball.
Exactly like him. Went to Tank Fest. I saw a few people dressed up as Oddball. The whole shebang. And not only that, but also they've got t-shirts of Oddball inside the merch shop at Tank Fest. Of always don't hit me with negative waves in the morning.
Don't hit me with them negative waves. Also, in our favorite anime, Girls and Panzer, Oddball is directly referenced.
That's what actually got me to watch Kelly's Heroes. Because I was watching it one time and I saw the first years, they're watching, and they're like, what? And it cuts to like DVD Kelly's Heroes and it shows the scene of the tiger turret. I'm thinking, this looks familiar. And then I found out it was Kelly's Heroes and I thought, I've never seen this film. And then, but what's funny is that last year I watched Girls and Panzer again, and I watched it with my dad, and I watched that episode of the first years, and they're watching the scene, and my dad suddenly just said, "Are they watching Kelly's Heroes?"
I was like, yeah, that's Kelly's
He
Hero.
was completely dumbfounded, like, they reference Kelly's Heroes in a Japanese anime thing? They can do that?
yeah, dude. Like we've all seen it. Like it's iconic, and that's why I think if we're gonna rate it, we're giving this one a 10 as well, right?
Yeah, 10.
We're probably gonna give all of these 10s, given that
it's one of the best World War II tank films.
Also, we were asked to pick our favorites, so these are all going to be 10s, like really, if we're being honest. And speaking of Clint Eastwood, this is my segue. Speaking of Clint Eastwood, he directed one of my favorite films on my list. He directed Letters from Iwo Jima.
Did he?
Which, yes, he did.
Clint
Eastwood directed 2 films as partners to each other. He directed Flags of Our Fathers, and he directed Letters from Iwo Jima. So Flag of Our Fathers is about the American soldiers who raised the flag on Iwo Jima. Letters from Iwo Jima is about the Japanese perspective of the same battle. And Letters from Iwo Jima is a markedly better film. Mainly because Letters from Iwo Jima is more of a direct war film, where Flags of Our Fathers was like a biopic documentary piece on the horrors of war, if you like, and how PTSD affects people when they get back. Like, because the guys who were famous for raising the flag in the photograph were sent home to sell war bonds and to do a tour and to raise morale and be heroes, you know what I mean? And it shows them coping with their brothers still out there fighting on Iwo Jima and later Okinawa, and how they're at home separated from their friends, like raising money and dealing with post-traumatic stress from all the really horrific shit they saw, right? And while Flags of Our Fathers is a great film, it's not as good, in my opinion, as Letters from Iwo Jima. Letters from Iwo Jima tells the Battle of Iwo Jima from the Japanese perspective. It's more combat-focused. It's a purer war movie. And by showing the Japanese perspective, it also had Japanese directors there with him as well, a Japanese staff working on it. It's based on the book Red Sun, Black Sand, and has a lot of Japanese input on it. And it's got an all-Japanese cast. And, my God, General Kurobashi is played by the GOAT.
Ken Watanabe?
Ken Watanabe. My man. My G. But while I'm not familiar, like, because we're all Westerners, we're not familiar, in terms of a star-studded cast, apparently Saigo, the main character of Letters from Iwo Jima, is played by an actual Japanese male idol, like an idol. Like he was from a boy band, like a really popular Japanese boy band, and this guy's performance is fucking incredible. I'm gonna look up his name right quick, but essentially, Letters from Iwo Jima is basically the sort of like it is the biggest budgeted, most honest depiction of World War II from the Japanese perspective, right? In terms of a combat film. And I think it does a very good job of showing both the brutality of the Japanese army and the Japanese Navy, and their tendency for war crimes, their tendency for ruthlessness. There's an entire scene in Letters from Iwo Jima, like in Flags of Our Fathers, right? And in the Pacific, you see the guys who are landing. They're like, you see your medical stripes? Take them off.
Yeah.
If the Japanese see them, they will shoot you.
Yeah, and then it shows them in the film Iwo Jima, like, here's a medic. This is what you need to aim for.
If you see this medic, you shoot at him.
Yeah.
They will risk many soldiers to save this one. You kill this guy first, right? So the Japanese were specifically ordered to kill medical personnel, to aim for them and kill them, right?
Which is
and when, yes, well, not saying that we didn't do it,
Did we not
but we often cooperated with German medics a lot of the time.
What about reverends?
Even on the Eastern Front, we did. Chaplains, I don't think were a very big part of the Wehrmacht. They were, but they weren't a huge part.
From what I know, they're Chads, chaplains. Military chaplains are fucking Chads.
On both sides, yeah. Like, I mean,
I mean IRL now. I know one who got shot down in a helicopter in Iraq, told he couldn't walk again, got medically discharged. He's still serving in the RAF because he said, "Fuck you, I'm gonna walk again." Taught himself to walk after 9 months. Got back in the service.
Absolute fucking monsters, right? Like, it's great stuff.
He's built like a fucking brick shit house. He's like, and the ones in the Navy are crazy because they just stand on the bow of a ship with a stick, being like, "Bless this ship and fucking God's mighty, whatever else." They've got the power of God on their side. I'd hate to see an anime fucking chaplain fan because Jesus Christ,
he would be too powerful. Like, we would not be able to stop. Like, seriously,
in the day.
Yeah, 100%. Like, you see it in Band of Brothers. Like,
that scene, when the one soldier's dying, and there's a gunfight going on in the town, and the chaplain's there, giving him his last rites whilst being shot at.
Yeah, I will say this, right? We're gonna say this now because the specific title of this episode is World War II movies, right? So we didn't include Band of Brothers, but I'm gonna put Band of Brothers as a 10 out of 10 just for the like it's not a movie, so it's not in this episode. But if you haven't watched Band of Brothers, fuck off and go do that instead of listening to us. Because, like, seriously, you need to get on that. I absolutely need to get on that.
And most of the cast are British. Yay!
But they all speak in American accents, and they're more convincing than most American actors somehow. Anyway, our actors are better. Fuck off. Anyway, long story short, back to Letters from Iwo Jima. There's not much I can really say about it in terms of, like...
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch it.
There's not much, like, plot that I can sort of describe, because you know the plot. The Americans land on Iwo Jima, fight their way like hell up Mount Suribachi. Then they're forced to fight across Motoyama airfield and eventually take the rest of the island, right? That's the plot. And that's the plot you see in the movie. You just see one Japanese soldier trying to survive this ordeal. He fights in the defense of Suribachi. He launches a banzai charge across open territory to reach Motoyama airfield. He makes it to Motoyama airfield, almost gets executed for cowardice because he retreated from Mount Suribachi. General Kurabashi rescues him at the last minute and acts him as his runner. We also follow the story of Commander Nishi, who was an Olympic gold medalist. He was an Olympic show jumper, and he's a cavalry officer in the Japanese army. He is a very good character. I really like him. He...
Was there a tank commander in it?
Yeah, he was the tank commander.
And Nishi is a reference to...
Yeah. Commander Nishi in Girls and Panzer. Yes. That's the thing. Nishi is one of the greatest characters in the movie. He was a real guy. A very stand-up, honorable man. There's a scene where which is based on real evidence from what I know, where he orders his medics to use their remaining medical supplies to treat an American POW instead of them. And tried to save an American POW instead of torturing him and killing him, which is what the Japanese soldiers do in the rest of the movie. When the Japanese soldiers capture an American, you see them bayoneting him and beating him to death. Letters from Iwo Jima is brutal. It does not pull any punches. You see a lot of people get burned alive by flamethrowers in this film. A lot. And it's very confronting. Some of the scenes can be very, very confronting. Especially if you don't like cruelty to animals. Because there's one scene where they shoot a dog. There's another scene where Commander Nishi's favorite horse, Jupiter, gets killed by artillery fire. Or I think it's actually an air raid. It's an air raid from an F4U Corsair that kills him. But it's very sad. But the performances in this film are incredible. And it's all in Japanese with subtitles. Which is how you should watch it, obviously. I don't know if there's an English dub. If there's an English dub, I'll slap you. Don't watch it.
Hello
watch
there. I am a Japanese officer. The Americans are coming to kill us.
Dude, like, there's been some pretty cringe ones, but no, on the whole, it's absolutely incredible. Like absolutely incredible stuff. Like genuinely magnificent. And on the whole, I don't think you'll find anything really better looking at it from the Japanese perspective, unless you watch Japanese war films. And I really wanted to put one on here, but they aren't.
I was tempted to put one, which is the Admiral.
Dude.
Because that film actually probably the only war film to make me cry. And do you know what bit made me cry? And good old Yamamoto copped it. I was like, I've seen this scene 1,000 times. Why am I crying now? I guess it was because
he was such a good man.
Yeah, he was such a good man, and he tried so hard to avoid war and everything. And he tried to take the right. He was given a shit. He was playing a game of poker. He was given a shit deal of cards, and he tried his best with the cards he was dealt. He was given an impossible task. Could have been achieved, maybe not. I don't know. People argue about it, but the fact is, he was given an impossible task, and he ended up paying his life for it.
Like
he's like the Rommel of Japan.
A lot of ways, yeah. I think controversial take. I think Admiral Yamamoto, on reflection, is a much better person than Rommel is.
In what way? We're talking about. I mean, Rommel didn't cheat on his wife with a mistress. Just saying.
True, but I do think, like, in terms of, like, if we're being purely sort of like political and historical, like, because Rommel did kind of cozy up to, like, he eventually, look, I give Rommel a pass for the simple reason is that he was murdered by the Nazis for conspiring to kill Hitler, so he gets a pass. But up until that point, like, there were some moments where he was really sort of like in bed with the regime. Whereas Yamamoto,
no one cares about French prisoners. Okay, that's all I gotta say.
Yamamoto, by contrast, I think is a bit different because Yamamoto preached avoidance of war at the start. He was a member of the older. He was a member of the peace faction of the Navy. His Admiral Kondo, his superior, was forced out of the service by Nagumo's fleet faction. Dude, Nagumo versus Yamamoto.
Nagumo is a cunt.
I fucking hate him.
Everyone hates Nagumo. Anyone could have won Midway if Nagumo wasn't there. Dude,
not only that, like,
launch a second wave. You fucking twat. You've caused war for everyone. You pussy. You pussy.
Dude, Admiral Nagumo fucked up so many times. He just continued fucking up, bro.
He should have killed himself after Midway, and that's what was so annoying. Is that the good guy Yamaguchi, who knew somewhat what he was doing, he had to go down with his ship, whilst Nagumo was like, "Yeah, I'm off. See you guys."
That's one of my actual favorite parts about the film Midway.
And the Admiral as well.
There's a lot wrong. There's a lot wrong with Midway. There's a lot wrong with that. I love that movie.
The scene where they go over the clouds and they see like 4 Yamato class battleships, and I'm like,
yeah, there's a lot wrong with Midway. There's a lot wrong with Midway, but they did rebuild the entire flight deck of the Enterprise to scale, which was cool. They also did get a lot of the stories and the characters were good, and like it's
cast again.
It's just the biggest problem, of course, with that movie was it didn't. What was really disappointing to me was they tried to do the like Longest Day and Bridge Too Far thing, where they tried to show both sides, but it was far too heavily stacked towards the Americans.
Yeah, it showed the Japanese at first, and then it went America.
While I don't mind that, right, I feel like the Battle of Midway is so much more compelling when you see it from both sides, because that brief half an hour, 45-minute window where everything was going on and the whole build up to that battle prior to that on both sides is so fascinating. And Midway did it so well. It set out like the ideas of what was going, like they set up the timeline and everything of how this was going to happen. They showed Pearl Harbor, the Doolittle raid, the Battle of the Coral Sea. They showed all of this crazy shit.
Like Yorktown with how the issue is they didn't show Yorktown sinking. They were just like, oh yeah, a carrier sank, and then there was no build up to tension. It should have showed Yorktown getting hit, and then people would be like not knowing if it was Enterprise or not, and sinking.
If you want to know, if you want a better dramatic interpretation,
Don't say it.
Go watch my Enterprise series. Thank you very much.
Say that. I knew you were gonna. I couldn't find the. Wait, does Yorktown sink in part 1 or part 2 of that series? Because
she sinks in part 2.
I was gonna say it moved very quickly. I was like, "What the fuck? You're covering everything in part 1. You might as well roll credits now."
I cut halfway through. Part 1 ends. Part 1 ends with Hiryu's counterattack. So part 1, Hiryu launches its aircraft and then ends there, because I figured that was the cool starting point, because it means that when you start episode 2, you jump straight in.
And with Midway, I think they should have showed more. Japan after Pearl Harbor didn't seem that threatening when you think about it, because the rest of the film, they should have showed like the Battle of Java Sea, destruction of 4C. They should have showed the Japanese just curb stomping everyone and everything in its way. They honestly, it would have been like a 2-minute clip, but it would have really showed how fucking good they were at the start.
Dude, they wouldn't have gotten the funding for it, and that's fair enough. But
and they should have added in more scenes of Yorktown.
Seriously, what they needed to do is, I say this a lot of the time, but what they needed to do with the film Midway is they needed to instead make a fucking mini-series, because that would have been fire.
But despite it having its issues, it was a very good film. It was very good, historically accurate. I didn't know the main character actually existed and was a real guy, and I didn't know that, because when I saw him like get into a curve carriers, I was like, nah, he never did that shit. That's fucking bullshit. He never aimed to the big red spot on the fucking thing. When the credits rolled and it was like he ended up like retiring and never flying again, and then he died in 19 whatever, I was like, whoa, wait, this guy actually existed. And then I looked him up after the film, and literally he was giving an interview. He was like, yeah, I just saw a giant red dot and I just put my bomb on it, and I was like, oh shit, that was real. Fucking hell. I mean, some parts it was Americanized and a bit over the top, like when he's bombing the Hiryu, he comes like from the aft end of the ship and then slow motion, and then he's like, this is a pearl, and it's like, and he screams and he gets engulfed in the flames and he flies through the flames. I'm like, yeah, that's a bit over the top, but
still awesome though.
Yeah, it's a good film.
Again, I mean, yeah, so we started on Letters of Iwo Jima. Letters of Iwo Jima for me. The other guys haven't seen it, but I'm going to rate Letters from Iwo Jima a 10. It's got Ken Watanabe as General Kuribashi. I can't really talk much about it because it doesn't have a plot, unlike the others we've talked about. Like, it doesn't have a plot. It's literally just one guy trying to survive the Battle of Iwo Jima.
So like 1917 and Dunkirk?
Yeah, it's very... Letters from Iwo Jima is, in my opinion, hot take, better than 1917. But 1917 is better as a technical achievement. But I think that Letters from Iwo Jima is a better film overall in terms of story. It also hits a lot to the core, because Letters from Iwo Jima is called Letters from Iwo Jima because a lot of that film has cutaways and flashback sequences. It doesn't do that annoying thing which a lot of war movies do. I understand why they do it. But if you've ever watched We Were Soldiers, or you've ever watched like these other films, right, where it'll be like you'll be in the middle of a firefight, there'll be like an incredible moment of cinema happening, like, oh, we've got to get the ammo to the reinforcements, we've got to get all this going, and it will slowly fade out, and it'll be like, meanwhile, back in Midtown, Missouri, his wife is sitting at her table reading,
masturbating.
Fuck off. Like, I don't care. Something incredible is going on screen right now. I know, like, if your angle for that, like, this is random, but the best depiction of war in popular media, for me, is an anime, shock, but it's Violet Evergarden, right?
Yeah.
Because it shows the aftermath of a war and how it affects people. And ironically enough, like Letters from Iwo Jima, it tells the story through writing letters and through the expression of emotion. But Letters from Iwo Jima does it really well, because Letters from Iwo Jima doesn't show the whole family flashbacks. It does with Kuribashi once, but it doesn't show the whole family or whatever. You get the feelings and stuff and the ideas and the experiences of their past and their family life and everything like that. You get those experiences from the letters that they're writing home. And every time you want to get a bit of background on a character, it'll show them reading a letter they wrote home to their mum or their wife or whatever, right? That. And what that does is it keeps you rooted in the action of the show, of the film, right? It keeps you rooted in the action. They're in a cave in a quiet bit in between firefights, right? And they're reading this, and it goes to 1920s America, where Kurabashi's visiting the American embassy, and he's like, drawing the cars on the street in New York, and he's talking about how he met some American soldiers and all this sort of shit. And it has this flashback sequence, and then it flashes back into why Kurabashi's thinking about this, and he's drawing up plans for defending the island. And they're like, why are you doing this defensive plan, digging caves and shit? Why haven't you got bunkers or hedgehogs and beach defenses? And he's like, do you know how many cars America builds in a year? 48,000. That's like 100 times that our country can build in 5 years, right? They have enough material superiority. The Americans will get past our beach defenses. What we need to do, it ties it back into the combat and the story while also explaining it. It's not too on the nose, right?
And that what was good about Japanese defense, because have you seen Nazi megastructures?
Yeah.
They did the one with the Atlantic Wall. They did the one with the Japanese, whatever they had, Hacksaw Ridge thing. The Japanese
cave systems, yeah.
The Japanese, that was ingenious cave systems. Because whereas with the Germans, once the Americans got through the Atlantic Wall, once they breached that wall, that was it. They were just free running all the way through Europe, and the Germans were like, what the fuck, because they were trying to stop them on the beaches, whereas the Japanese were like, we'll just let them go on the beaches. We'll let them take the fucking mountain. But we'll be hidden inside the mountain. When those fuckers are above us, we'll come out and fucking absolutely just murder them all, massacre them, and it really, they I think it was a week they held off, whereas D-Day was literally in a matter of hours. The Japanese invasion just drove on and on and on to a crawl, because the Japanese were just pulling fucking shit out their asses and, being like, what you at? Coming out of caves and just killing everything.
It was effective, and Letters from Iwo Jima shows that in great detail, them digging the cave system on Iwo Jima and then fighting their way out. It was, it's rather visceral too. It gets intense, it gets brutal. Like there's flamethrowers, there's bayonets, there's samurai swords, there's there's all kinds of shit and violence. It really hits home war in the Pacific, unlike any other show does. But we've been talking too long about 3 different movies. As long as we all agree that besides the flight sequences, dab on Pearl Harbor real hard, because nah. What else we got here? We've got
We'll move on to the next one.
Moving on to the next one. Which one? We'll do one of yours again. So which one do you want to do?
I will give it the best intro ever. Doujin, you there? I think he's gone.
He's gone. It's just us.
But that's Doujin, who's editing.
I am.
Oh, you're back?
No, you're editing. I'm not.
Okay. Well, all I have to say is to introduce my next film.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Next film, Das Boot.
Oh, dude. The funny thing is, that theme is not my favorite part of the film. My favorite theme from Das Boot is Convoy.
That bit.
Yo.
Das Boot is a amazing film. I can't use any other words to describe it. It's the best. It's one of the best book adaptations of all time, along with the film Jaws.
100%.
It's better than the book. It's I don't know. It's the theme is iconic. The music's iconic. The fact they used 80s synthesizer, and they fucking nailed it out of the park. The theme captures the U-boat perfectly. The U-boat is iconic. U-96, the greatest U-boat of all time.
Dude, I got to be honest with you. There is nothing more iconic. Like, of all the movies on this list, and we've got some other movies on this list, right? We've got incredible movies on this list. But none of the war movies which we're going to talk about ever, right? All the war movies we're going to end up talking about on this podcast, because we've got like 3 or 4 episodes planned for just war movies, right? Of all the war movies we can talk about, Das Boot has the best intro of any naval film ever.
Right, okay, because I was going to say, if you were going to say war film, it's a toss-up between 3 different intros from 3 different films.
Yeah, but like in terms of Navy, there's no question. Das Boot's intro is like the sonar pings, like
you hear the rotors, and you slowly see it. Considering it's a model, it was amazing what they did, and you just see it slowly come out of like the green ocean.
Yeah, like that shot from Star Wars where the Star Destroyer like, comes over, right?
Yeah.
And you see that like. You see that thing in Star Wars where the Star Destroyer is just massive and it comes across the screen. Like that was the other way round. It was the front-on aspect of that, because you've got it obscured by the darkness of the sea, and you just have this shape move out of the darkness and cross it, and you just like you hear it ping, ping, and you hear swish, 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 and then the rotors just come over, the propellers just come over you, and it's just like whoosh. Like, because you have this really dark and chilling intro, and it's like U-boat crews, like only 1 in 10 of them would survive, like 90% of them died, and all this really dark and dingy facts, and like how the war in the Atlantic is going horribly for Germany and everything's going wrong, and it's really dark and depressing, and then just this shape just looms out of the darkness, and it's just one of the most chilling intros of a film I have ever seen. Like, actually, out of curiosity, OC, what was the other 2 films like that this is a toss-up with for greatest intro? What do you reckon?
Battle of Britain and Kelly Zeros.
Yeah, look, honestly, we'll get to Battle of Britain in a minute. Spoiler alert. But Das Boot, I mean, again, like Letters from Iwo Jima, it's a hard one to talk about because Das Boot is the best submarine movie. Oh, actually.
Oh, Hunt for Red October.
Hunt for Red October, right?
But
yeah, see that from...
But I think Das Boot takes it because Das Boot is in its own league.
Yeah, Das Boot...
U-boat is more iconic than a Typhoon class submarine.
Yeah, like...
Sean Connery gives a beautiful acting in that film, and bloody...
One thing only, please.
It's a fucking amazing film. It's an amazing film, not Das Boot and thingy. Fucking Hunt for Red October. And speaking of communists and Hunt for Red October, I'd like to offer my condolences to your loss recently, Anamaki.
Old mate Gorby did some great things. Like he tried his best, but ultimately there's no saving the rotten carcass that was the Soviet Union.
But he did prevent civil war and stuff.
He did a lot of good and a lot of bad, and like one thing I think that needs to be said about Gorbachev is he did take great steps towards nuclear disarmament. We would be in a much unsafer world without his efforts. Both him and Ronald Reagan. Like I dislike them both politically on policy, but on the whole, their efforts for like, yeah. We are never ever going to agree on Margaret Thatcher, OC. Let's not go there. If we do not want to start a massive brawl on our podcast.
Bring back the black and tans.
Look, honest to God, the greatest thing Margaret Thatcher did was die because it gave Britain's first gender-neutral bathroom. Anyway,
Bruh.
Moving on. Nah, look.
Do I have to make a video why Margaret Thatcher is the best Prime Minister ever?
Yeah, and I can't wait for everyone to drag you like they did on your British Empire video, because I swear to God, man, I was ready to come swinging at you on that. I was ready to come back with a call out video. I was getting ready to you think all your other drama was fucking throwdown? Nah, man, you're in my wheelhouse now, bro. Forget all the problematic shit with person whose name we won't mention. No, forget all that shit. Nah, throw down with me on a matter about history and politics, man. You get ready. We're going in. Like, let me get my
Two polar opposites. It's an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. And the issue is, the reason why people are wondering, why the hell did Ozzy bring up Gorbachev? I thought he hates left-wing stuff. Because I used to be a communist, and yeah, it was kind of sad. Last communist Soviet leader.
Pretty sad.
When I was 12, I was pretty cringe. But then when I was 13, I turned so based. I was the basest motherfucker on the planet, and I've been ever since then.
Man, I'm the other way around. I was based turned communist. So what do you know? These things happen when you get older, man. Trust me. It's wild.
I'm not a Lib Dem supporter. They never get into power.
Who
Only
is?
once.
Who is? Honestly, like, who is the one voter?
Freeman, the actor.
Oh, that's right. He is too, isn't he?
Because he was like he was in a fucking advert like, oh, I vote for the Lib Dems because I'm pussy. And no, my friend did, because he didn't want Brexit to happen, and Lib Dems were the only party that said like, yeah, we don't want Brexit to happen, and my mate voted for him, voted for Lib Dems.
It's like, it's one of those weird things, right? Where you've got, like, let's be reductive about this. The one area where the hard right and the hard left could agree on, which is yes to Brexit because fuck the EU. Like, seriously?
Yeah,
like,
suck on that, you frog bastards.
Yeah, like, that's the thing. The far right hates it because Johnny Foreigner, fuck Johnny Foreigner, and the far left hates it because the EU is just this hyper corporate cabal. Like the EU is literally just a network of hyper exploitative corporate markets that are colluding together to control the economy of Europe. And I'm like, yeah, nah, fuck it. The EU is just corporations trying to shut down small business and trade unions and just fuck them over. Plus, look, it's like The Hague, right? Could you imagine Belgium telling us what to do? Like, go fuck yourself.
Actually, I knew someone who was a mercenary, and the Belgians tried to fucking get him dragged to The Hague to have him done for war crimes, and it was the Americans that had to save him. The Americans said, "No, piss off."
Yeah,
the Americans, they don't have war crimes. They're like, Hague, what's that? Never heard of it.
Fun fact. If you check my TikTok, I have a fun TikTok about that, about how the Americans have a law which says that they can invade The Hague and rescue their people for war crimes if they want. It's always fun. How do we get here from Das? Oh, circling back. Speaking of war crimes, back to talking about Das Boot. Yeah, Das Boot is one of those. It's probably the most claustrophobic movie I've ever watched.
Yeah, definitely claustrophobic. Definitely makes you fear the ocean beneath it, and yeah. But what I also love about Das Boot, I think the number one unique selling point of Das Boot is that the time it was made. You've got all these war films coming out, and they're all like British perspective, American perspective, so many, French perspective. And then out comes Das Boot, and you think, well, why would I want to watch a film that's rooting for the bad guys? And you watch it, and it humanizes them, because they're just like average people like you and me, They get up to their own fun, they do their own stuff, they get dealt, and it turns out they, of course, what we heard is that they were starving us to death. But in reality, they're getting fucked over. They're like, oh, I don't want to go on a U-boat because we're going to fucking die, And you're rooting for these guys. You fall in love with these guys, this crew, this ship, and you're rooting for them throughout the entire film. And and they get fucked over because they got to go to Gibraltar, and they got no choice. They don't want to, but they got to try and get past Gibraltar. They don't. They fail. They end up sinking to the bottom. Then the claustrophobia hits in. It hits you with the claustrophobia. It hits you with the, oh shit, they're in a fucking... You couldn't think of a worse way to die than that. And then they eventually overcome the problem, and the bit when they get the engines running, and he's yelling at them, don't stop, get me home. And you really feel it for the crew. And they get home, sail into Kiel. The Admiral steps onto the boat from the gangway, and then you just hear an air raid siren. And in comes the British bomber planes. They blow up the dockyard. They blow up the U-boat. They're strafing the crew members. Mass panic. Everyone's dying. Explosions everywhere. And the submarine sinks. Crewmen are dead. Captain sees his ship sinks and he falls over. and the credits roll, and it gets you rooting for the bad guys, and then it just delivers that final. You think they got out of it, and then boom, it strikes you like, no, they didn't.
This is the thing. There are two versions of that ending. They end the film. There are two versions. They end with that one. They end with that, where they all die, and there's one where they live. There were two versions.
Really? I didn't know about that.
There was. I'm pretty sure. Because I remember just watching that and going, "Holy fuck!" I was caught off guard by it. Right. But the thing that really gets me about Das Boot is that feeling where you're sort of looking at the Germans and their experience, and yet I've started, like, the more research I do, as much pity as one can feel for the Nazis, as it were, the one thing I do say is that the more I read and discover about it, the more I actually just feel pity for the Kriegsmarine. They didn't stand a chance. They didn't stand a hope in hell. They were abandoned by their political leadership. Their country didn't have the economy to support them. Their U-boat arm, which ended up doing all the work, got abandoned for battleships that fought one battle and then got sunk. Right?
Oh.
And that's if they were lucky enough to fight a battle. Right? Tirpitz just got bullied and shoved into Norway and continuously bombed into oblivion. Right? Like, the German surface fleet, had one hurrah, and that was Operation Weserübung, the invasion of Norway. And in that invasion of Norway,
when Charles and Eisenhower broke out in the Atlantic under Lutyens and wreaked havoc on the convoys.
That was one good sortie, but again,
and there was also the time Admiral Scheer sunk, I think it was 115,000 tons of shipping, and that was the most one single ship got in one single outing. I believe it was Admiral.
I think it was because it was one of the Kriegsschiffs. It was one of the fast battleships, pocket battleships, that did that. I think the thing that gets me is that the Kriegsmarine never really had, they never had a Midway or a Leyte Gulf. They never really had that big moment where they won a big victory but ultimately lost the war. I mean, the Japanese had Santa Cruz, the Japanese had Pearl Harbor. There were moments in the Pacific War where there was give and take. It would ebb and flow. The Japanese would win one, the Americans would win one, right? The Germans would achieve maybe one or two coups in commerce raiding, like you said, and one major battle, which is, of course, the infamous battle between Bismarck and Hood, right? Besides that, in terms of fleet actions, the Germans never really had anything going for them, and they just got bullied. The Royal Navy was just like, you are a bunch of land-dwelling peasants. We are going to end you. And they did. The Royal Navy...
in the case of Bismarck, they literally... the moment Bismarck sunk Hoods, every single thing that was a Royal Navy warship, whether it be a fucking battleship, a carrier, or a fucking rowboat with a machine gun, was going for that ship. It's like getting 5 stars on GTA. When the tanks come out and you're there like, what the fuck? And the helicopters and shit, you're fucked, and basically that's the Royal Navy just demonstrates publicly, if you do something what we don't like, we're gonna do what we did to Bismarck. And basically that was the case with the U-boats. And to the point that they would literally kill U-boat crews, because they was just to send a message of how pissed off they were with U-boats. Because the Allies fucking hated U-boats.
100%.
They found them irritating like flies, but they just kept killing them.
Because, the war in the Atlantic was Britain's most important war. Easily.
It went on throughout the entire war. It only finished the day Germany gave up.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Until the liberation of France completely, really, the Battle of the Atlantic kept going the entire time. And really, the Battle of the Atlantic was the only existential threat to Britain's independence. Like the Battle of Britain was bad, but the Royal Navy could sweep into the Channel and confront. They would suffer a lot of casualties. But the Royal Navy, in an emergency, could send their destroyers and cruisers into the English Channel and intercept the German invasion fleet and sink it. And they would lose a lot of ships, but they could sink it.
The thing is that the Germans weren't using... The boats they were using as landing craft were barges.
Yeah,
which
they were
basically, they would have to rely on a day where the ocean is flat. And all they have to do, the British has to do, is just get one fast battleship and just sail around them to cause a massive swirl, to cause them all to sink in high waves. That's all they had to do, was just drive close to them. They didn't even have to shoot at them. So that was that was a plan that the Navy had to stopping them when they found out that they had barges, was to just do that.
It's Das Boot more than anything. Like, we can talk about the characters and stuff, but again, there's no real point. It's kind of like Letters from Iwo Jima. There's no real point to talking about that because it's Das Boot is more of an experience.
Thompson's Chad.
Yeah.
Like
you've got to experience it.
Bloody hot.
Yeah,
honestly, that guy is mate. If I was a girl, mate, I'd smash it.
Do you even know what he looks like?
Even if you're not a girl, you know what? There are times, when you look at a man with a beard like that, you're like, damn.
And what's great about him is, the opening scene, how he's drunk.
Yeah.
That's not acting.
Yeah, he actually is
drunk during that scene. They recorded that scene with him completely pissed as a fart. So everything he said in that film was literally ad-libbed at that point.
Yeah, man.
He said when they get dragged out of the bathroom, it was I don't want to fuck or something like that.
It was wild. I think that's the ultimate point we sort of reach with Das Boot, is that if you want a film that shows the German perspective of the war in the Atlantic, there really is no film like it. And it's an experience. Das Boot is a trip.
I mean, obviously, it doesn't end. The film doesn't end well, it sort of does end the same way that U-96 did end, but U-96 was abandoned and then sunk by aircraft. But
yeah, that's the thing. Like, the whole war, the whole thing, everything in it is just hell, and it's just hell. It's
especially the one scene when they sink the one ship.
Yeah, with you've got them all burning alive as the boat
and they're
sinks
begging for help, but then they're coming to you, but then they start to reverse the engines because they know that they can't pick up survivors.
Yeah.
And the reason as to why was because Karl Donit's son was in a U-boat that picked up survivors and was later sunk by a British destroyer. So after that, he basically vowed that no one else is going to lose their sons. We are not picking up survivors. And then the Laconia incident happened.
Yeah.
Which was a mess. And guess what happened with that? The Americans turned up and fucking started shooting passengers. And it was like, oh, for fuck's sake, America, why are you so trigger happy?
Well, the Americans will do that. Not that we're any better. We have our moments. We have our moments. I mean, on the whole, though, Das Boot is a 10. Like, there's no...
Can we compare it to Downfall?
I mean...
Because Downfall's another great German film as well, from a German perspective. But then again, Downfall's got the best, in my opinion, the best historical figure ever represented on film. In terms of, like, the actor played him beautifully.
Yeah, like
literally, they just, like, it was as if he was born for the role of Hitler, Bruno Ganz. But Das Boot, whereas it shows the big players in Downfall, it shows the big players like Hitler and Goebbels and Himmler and all that. Das Boot shows the simple people. Donitz isn't even in the film, I don't think.
And it has one of my favorite scenes in war movie history, which is when they play A Long Way to Tipperary in the U-boat.
And that's another thing that adds to it, is that they're not listening to German music, they're listening to British music, to Allied music, because they like the song and they find it funny. Which also humanizes them more in the film.
Give me 1 sec, guys. 1 moment.
I'm trying to think what else about that film. I forgot.
Hi.
And that's why U-96 is the best submarine in all of Azalane.
What?
U-96 is the best submarine in Azalane. There's no doubt about it because of the film Das Boot.
Yeah, maybe.
Das Boot humanizes.
History-wise, yes. Everything else now is fucking garbage, lads.
Nah. U-96 is the best, all right?
You know what needs to happen, though? I think we roll into... Because we're on the topic of Das Boot.
Also, I just want to say something. Do not watch the TV show. Do not watch the Sky TV show. It is
Also-
fucking garbage. It is
Yes.
terrible.
Don't watch that. Watch
Also,
this movie.
we probably should have done a disclaimer for that, for the fact that there will be spoilers on this
I think
thing.
they'll know it.
I mean,
You know,
We got timestamps. Timestamps will save us, okay? It's like reading chapters.
also put like a massive spoiler warning at the start. All the movies discussed. will be
no.
spoiled.
We'll just do this. Warning: this episode may contain spoilers for the war movies. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't say fuck off because in the first 30 seconds, Doujin.
Cunt.
No, in all seriousness, though, we should pivot because Das Boot, really, we can't really talk about it too much because Das Boot is not a movie that's got a plot that we can discuss. Das Boot is an experience. You just have to. What you need to do is you need to put that on the biggest TV you can find, preferably in a place which has surround sound.
Get some
And
tissues, some gel.
Yeah.
What are you? Oh my god!
Get yourselves ready, boys. Get yourselves ready, boys, because you're gonna be in that sardine tin for a real long time, and it's an experience. Das Boot is kind of like 1917, really, isn't it? It's like it's not so much a plot-driven film. It's just you have to experience it. It's actually nuts. But you know what is a plot-driven film? It's your last film, because we're talking about the Kriegsmarine. I guess it's time to talk about what we referenced before. The greatest icon of British war cinema. Like, one of the greats. One of the truly iconic films.
One that's on every year, probably at Remembrance Day, every single year. Since 2008.
Unknown Soldier.
No.
Yes.
Sink the Bismarck.
Sink the Bismarck.
That's not really a spoiler. There's no spoiler in the film Sink the Bismarck because the title literally gives away, and everyone knows about Bismarck. Everyone's watching this like, I know the story of Bismarck. So
Can you like, will you go on a rant in about a few minutes why she was scuttled or not?
Well, the issue with the film is that they don't depict Bismarck being scuttled, when in reality, we all know 100% for a fact Bismarck was indeed scuttled. Drafniel, if you're watching this, your video sucks. How dare you talk against James Cameron? James Cameron knows more about Bismarck than you. You didn't go down to the wreck. He did. I don't care. I'm not counting anyone's other's opinions. They don't matter. James Cameron is bae. He's like Goku. I don't give a fuck.
That's kind of gay.
Holy shit. You're calling out the best naval historian on YouTube. Bro, just so you know, Drac, I'm actually on the scuttled side, but I thought your video was fire. I thought it was a really well-made rebuttal. I don't agree. I think it was scuttled given the evidence we have, but you know, on the flip side, it doesn't really matter because even if they didn't scuttle it, oh man, the Royal Navy were going to sink that bitch, or that boat was dead.
If we got him on as a guest, you know what he'd say straight away to me? I heard you was talking shit.
I heard you was talking mad shit. Honestly, like, honest to God, like, I'd love to have Drek NFL on, and like,
no,
you know
I
what?
do respect him, by the way. If you're watching this, I do not hate you. I do respect you. I've heard a lot about you, so.
Also, if you need an editor, just hit me up. You know.
I just think it's a bit.
Don't volunteer to be Drak's editor, Doujin, for one major reason, man. Like, the dude does like 9-hour Q&A sessions, homie. Like,
that's why.
Dude, like, That's just what he sits there and records for 9 hours, just responding to questions, and I'm just like, and it's a weekly Q&A or a monthly Q&A or something where he does dry dock and he does 9 hours of record. I'm like, homie, bro, take a day, like, mate, what are you doing, son? Like, mad respect to Drac, like, for real, but Sink the Bismarck, holy shit,
Great film.
Kino, boys. I
Right.
just watched it tonight. Kino.
Considering the
They
fact
didn't-
it's in black and white, it's a fucking good film.
It's a banger. Like, it's not the best black and white war film though. Like, I would say that would probably go to The Longest Day.
Casablanca.
Oh, you reckon?
No,
Ooh.
that was fucking awful. I hated that film. I haven't even watched. I just saw the French anthem scene and I was like, no, nah, not watching no supportive French crap. You can shove that up your ass. You know.
Of all the bars in all the world, he just had to walk into mine. What a line, though. Come on.
Where was that from? Casablanca.
Casablanca. Dude,
Oh.
come on.
I
Really?
literally flipped through the scene. I just saw it like anthem scene. I was like, no way, they do a dirty French anthem. And I was like, well, they do. Well, this is a shit film. Longest Day. It was good. Longest Day. It was very good. Longest Day. It was very good with the different perspectives. The only issue I had with it is why was John Wayne, who was like 50 odd, playing a 30-year-old guy.
Dude, the guy in charge of the paratroopers on the 82nd that John Wayne was playing was my age. And I'm like, no, John Wayne, though, is the Duke. And you gotta respect the
He
Duke.
played Genghis Khan. He did the best historic portrayal of Genghis Khan in film. Hello, my name is Genghis Khan. I'm going to impregnate most of Asia. Bang, bang. But no, getting back to Sink the Bismarck. But it's funny because as I'm literally talking about this, I'm literally looking at my Bismarck plushie and my 1/200 Bismarck model partially built and my Airfix Bismarck model I've had for years. Like, I don't even know where to start with this film. This film, it's amazing.
I'm with you. I've got my Bismarck plushie on my desk here as well. Like, I'm...
Because
yeah.
I guess it's a story because this isn't a real life story. This isn't like made up, like it's not like a made up story like Inglourious Basterds or whatever. It's a real story. Everything that happened in this film happened
For the most part.
For the most part, there were some issues like such as Battle of Denmark Strait. They were on the wrong sides. It was like what the fuck, and it didn't depict them. It didn't depict the British fucking up straight away, and it also depicted a fictional ship being sunk. And yes, there was various issues here and there with the film historical accuracy.
And you want to know what I think is weird?
What's weird?
One thing I will say that's weird about Sink the Bismarck is they did this thing that like some parts of A Bridge Too Far did, another 10 out of 10 war movie, like where they changed certain events that were actually more badass in real life because they were like, yeah, no, there's no way people are going to believe this.
Was it the
Right?
with the swordfish?
The
The guy didn't lean over the side.
They didn't include the guy leaning over the side and the swordfish, and they didn't include Piran. They launched it.
Is because Piran fucking sucks and did nothing to assist in the sinking of Bismarck. And if the Polish say, "Oh, well, actually, no, you didn't," end of
But
story.
it was so badass, though.
Care. It's as useful as glowworm ramming Hipper. Do you know how useful that was? Not at all. It was not useful.
Yeah.
Because glowworm
I
failed the
love
ram.
Glowworm.
I'm gonna throw down here. I'm gonna throw down like glowworm. That was epic. A, for the memes, and B, because there was no way she was getting out of that situation. Like, she couldn't withdraw. Hipper would have just shot her as she tried to get away. She was too close.
They weren't even trying to ram Glow. It was because they lost control, and the Germans were, "Oh shit, they're trying to ram us." Turns out they was like, "No, we weren't trying to ram you. We just lost control of the ship, and they just swerved everywhere."
No, I'm pretty sure they rammed it. Like, I'm pretty directly sure that they gave orders to ram. Like,
They gave orders to get in torp distance because they were going to throw torps at them, but I think the bridge got hit, before and they lost steering power. Didn't Glowworm? I don't know if Glowworm actually did hit or not. Not too sure.
Yeah, Glowworm did hit
Ah.
Admiral Hipper quite badly. She crippled her. Like, so this is the thing, right? So the last, so I looked this up just now. The last order Commander Roop gave to the helm of Glowworm was hard to starboard, which was straight at Hipper. So he gave a helm command to ram Hipper, and Hipper was crippled in dry dock after that for like months because Glowworm tore the side out of the ship. Spoiler alert, I've got a video in the works for Glowworm versus Hipper. Fun fact.
Is it going to be like the video you did?
Yeah, it's very similar to the jailbreaks. I've got an entire series of videos called When Destroyers Fight Battleships. And yes, I know Admiral Hipper is a heavy cruiser, but the disparity is like funny.
About the USS Johnston.
Again.
Who?
Again.
You what, Doujin?
Incredible badass. Like, incredibly badass moment. But, like, yeah, not as cool as Glowworm. I'm sorry. Glowworm was
Johnston's
exactly. Johnston who? Like, who?
What? Doujin, are you sure you want to say that on a naval podcast? Are you out of your mind?
Yeah, you can have the fucking Johnston fans being like, and then the Zombie Roberts fans will be like, what about us? Oh, Zombie Roberts was a destroyer escort, not as good as Johnston. You guys can suck it.
Johnston was a Chad. Their commanding officer was half Native American, who his sailors called the Chief.
He had a mustache. He got fucking blown up partially. His hand. He lost fingers. And then he ripped his shirt off like a Chad. And was like fucking yelling down into the steering room where to steer the ship.
Absolute.
And oh my god, they tag teamed so good. When Samuel B. Roberts came in, when they switched, when Johnston pulled away from the fight and Samuel B. Roberts went fucking steaming in, you know, the captain of the Johnston gave a salute as they were going into battle. Coolest thing ever.
Dude, absolute madness. They had guys on the decks with rifles. They were firing 5-inch. They were engaging Yamato in a destroyer. Like, bro. Absolute madnads.
And they scared Yamato away.
Yeah, they're like,
they literally scared Yamato away with their presence.
Oh, he's dead. So
the
that's
video.
That's a whole different video to discuss. But back to
Sink the Bismarck. Because you had one of the... Because to us, the Bismarck was the Star Destroyer, the Death Star, as James Cameron would say. You know, this was the big bad to us. This was the big battleship that had probably one of the thickest armor. It was the largest battleship in Europe. Biggest battleship in Europe. Some people would argue, the Roma was better because it had better armor. Roma fucking sucks because her gun casings was wrong, meaning that she could not hit her target. Bismarck could hit her target.
She's Italian. And look... The Regia Marina pussied back to their harbour and never left again because...
Someone challenged me to a 1v1, Bismarck vs Roma, because they believed that Roma was better than Bismarck. 2 matches. I wiped the fucking floor with them. I literally went close range. That armour meant shit to me because I was just citadeling the hell out of that person. Alright, my 15 inches was just ripping that thing to shreds. But anyway, that's what I love about the film Sink the Bismarck, because I saw it when I was about 8. And I remember because I got into Bismarck from the books, and I didn't know, because originally I thought Bismarck was a British ship, but that's because I was a stupid child. I didn't know it was German for quite a while. And I think Sink the Bismarck would have the biggest impact because it would, let's just say, outline where my allegiances lie, who I'm rooting for in World War II films. And 8-year-old me seeing like this ship and, you know, to see the battle, because it kicked off everything to me in terms of, not in terms of ship history, Titanic kicked it off for me, but in terms of naval history, naval warfare and all that, Sink the Bismarck kicked it off for me, because 8-year-old me, seeing this old black and white film, seeing the Hood, you know, gallantly go into battle, you know, the British are like, yeah, we're gonna fuck shit up, and you know, then Bismarck returns fire, and then you just hear the whistling of shells and the explosions, and the way they utilized models in that film was amazing. They used slow motion and took long shots to the close-ups of the models to make them appear huge ships, you know. And then to see like Hood steam along, and then you just see like an explosion there, and then you just see like a slight explosion, and then you just see suddenly the entire ship just explodes on the screen, and then you're me being like,
This is the best battleship ever.
even though it really isn't. You know, hashtag Iowa gang, we stand. I'm team Iowa all the way, but like even I've got to admit that Bismarck is impressive.
And it's one of the greatest cat and mouses games in the history of mankind, and it's a real life story.
Yeah, it is. It's great. The problem is the film is like
you're trying to cram in a lot of stuff into one film, which they do a very good job of, because it's about 2 weeks, the events of sinking Bismarck, from the get-go to the point that she reaches the bottom of the ocean. And what I like about it is it does the whole cat and mouse game, and it also that was it. Because the fact is that, you know, it's the story of Bismarck itself. You know, you've got the best of the best. You've got HMS Hood, the pride of the British fleet, you know, the big fuck-off ship, you know, the one that's going to kick ass out of Bismarck, 20 years old, but man, she's going to absolute take Bismarck on. And Bismarck just goes, lol, get wrecked, bang. It goes down. Navy's like, what the fuck? We're screwed. This is a complete disaster. Churchill rings up and says, oi, get your shit together. I'm pissed off as much as you are. Sort this shit out. The Navy's like, what the hell do we do? What the hell do we do in this situation? You know, we got nothing close to it. The thing that's closest to it is Prince of Wales, and she's badly damaged, leaking, you know, she's running low on fuel, and she, you know, can't fight her because her guns are off. And then they decide, you know what, let's just use planes. We've never tested that before, let's use it. And the irony is that it was Ark Royal, it was literally, it reads like a fucking story. It's like the King's Guards failed to kill the dragon, but a fucking archer with a magic arrow somehow shot the dragon in the leg or the wing or the tail that caused the dragon to spiral out of control and allowed the rest of the King's Guard to get close and finish off the beast. And that's what's so great about the story of Bismarck, is the fact that one of the biggest and best ships in Europe was taken down by a biplane.
So what you're saying is aviation is king, you're a peasant, get on my level.
No,
Fight me.
what I'm saying is they should have practiced gunnery better at anti-air. Clearly they weren't very good at anti-air. Okay. If Prince Eugen hadn't have fucking ran away, Bismarck would still been afloat. Okay.
You want to know what else was really funny about that? Prince Eugen breaks contact, goes to hunt convoys, then her engines break and she's forced to return to base without seeing anything. Yeah. And you want to know? And yeah, again, shameless self-plug. If you've seen my Prince Eugen video, you know that once the Brits figured out, hey, you know, air power seems to be the way to win naval wars. Boy, Britain go ham. But that's the one thing that the story of Bismarck always does for me, is it gives justice to fairy aviation's greatest achievement, the goddamn swordfish. Absolute mad lads. The fairy swordfish is underappreciated. They call it a string bag,
best
a biplane.
of the war.
No, it's not.
Well, here's the thing, right? Okay, right. So Dauntless. What types of ships did Dauntless sink? Sank Japanese.
Carrier.
Right. Swordfish fucked up the Italian fleet, Taranto. Italian Navy got dabbed on by Swordfish. Bismarck fucked over by Swordfish, dabbed on the German Navy. The French, Battle of Mezza-Kelbir, yes, French people, it is a battle. You had battleships there, they shot at us, we fucking put you all on the ground, okay? Swordfish, Ark Royal, dabbed on the French Navy at Battle of Mezza-Kelbir. The Swordfish beat the German Navy, the Italian Navy, and the French Navy. The Dauntless only beat the Japanese Navy. So,
However,
the Swordfish had a rear gunner. And on top of that, had a navigator, which could help navigate the battlefield. And on top of that, the Swordfish was cheap to maintain, cheap to make, more effective, more cost effective than a F-35, if the Royal Navy like used the budget of the F-35 to build Swordfish, we'd have the most aircraft in any fleet air arm ever, and we would destroy the enemy. Because the fact is, heat-seeking missiles. What's their teak? There's no jet engine. It's a propeller. You know, AKs will be shooting at it. The bullets will just go straight through the thing. You know, it's bulletproof.
I think you're a little bit optimistic there, man. I'm
not. I had this argument in university with someone, and it went on for like I had to do a presentation on a plane, and they were doing it in pairs, and I decided to do it by myself, and I literally sold the Swordfish like I was a car salesman. I was like, this bad boy can achieve 100 knots. Fuck yeah, 35 with your 1,000 knots. That shit.
If you could actually, you know what? If you
got a higher KD ratio than all your fucking fancy jets.
If you could rig the Swordfish to drop a Madcap torpedo, if you could rig the Swordfish to drop like a Mark 48 or a Spearfish torpedo, like maybe, but I doubt the Swordfish would even be able to lift one of those fucking things. But I get the meme potential. But what I'm sort of saying is, best aircraft? No, again, I'm going to be boring.
Okay, not best aircraft, but best.
I'm going to be boring. Again, it's me being, I'm an intellectual. I went to university. I've read so many books. Best aircraft of World War II is easily the C-47 or the DC-3. Like, without a shadow of a doubt. Skytrain. Faux days. Dude, for the same reason.
Didn't they make an AC-41 gunship?
No, actually, I take that back. The Skytrain is second. The first is the PBY Catalina, followed by the Skytrain.
Because the PBY Catalina got the Bismarck.
Found Bismarck. That's right. But not only that, every major naval battle in World War II, both in the Atlantic and the Pacific, occasionally in the Mediterranean when hunting the Italian submarines, which they could see even though they were submerged, because the Italians didn't work out that the Mediterranean was clear and they needed to dive deeper, and that the most of the Mediterranean is shallow, so we could just see their submarines and bomb them, because the Regia Marina is a fucking joke. You guys suck. Take the L, take the ratio, plus 100 to battleship stealth, make Warspite great again. I don't know. Just dab
on you all.
Like, that's right. You know what? Prince Philip with his searchlight sneaking up on you boys, wrecking your shit. You got ratioed. Deal with it. You got so scared, you hid in your little harbor. And you know what happened? The Swordfish came and got you. So yeah, eat it. Anyway, back on. We could spend all day dabbing on the Regia Marina. But long story short, like the Catalina just bomb diggity. But Sink the Bismarck. My biggest problem with Sink the Bismarck is watching it back. I was like, because I'd made my documentary on it, which is #better. But no, it's actually not. Like, I don't have
Kenneth historical issues with it.
Yeah, like the only reason why Sink the Bismarck is better than my version of Sink the Bismarck is simply because Kenneth More is the lead actor, and oh my dude.
But I also love him as well. He's very controversial. All the Luchans fans are going to be like, is because I like Luchans in that film.
Dude, no, they did my boy dirty.
I know, they did him dirty. They did him absolute dirty. But the thing is, right, 8-year-old me hearing Luchans saying we're in the most powerful battleship afloat, superior to everything in the British Navy. 8-year-old me was like, yes, you are Luchans. Daddy Luchans. I love you, Luchans. I fucking hate you, Lindemann. I wonder what happens in like so many years' time when I make a video about why Bismarck was scuttled and the best ship ever. Shameless plug-in. You know, pretty much the film's like the Bismarck. It ratioed on everything in terms of, you know, even though they did Luchans dirty, they got Luchans horrifically wrong because Luchans was actually introvert. Robert Ballard wrote quite well about Luchans. He said, you know, he was hated by the crew, but at the end of the day, he was doing his job, and you know, he was a strict guy, and he was an introvert. You know, because in the film Sink the Bismarck, he's depicted as like a Nazi, like a pro-Nazi.
But he was one of the few fucking admirals. He got sidelined initially because he made speeches and like wrote letters against the Nazis because of Kristallnacht. He directly opposed anti-Semitic policies in the Kriegsmarine, and he got in shit for it. It was only because he was so good at his fucking job that he even got the role, right?
And it was also the issue why he was vilified for that film was because the crew didn't like him. And they needed a bad guy because it was made.
They
in
needed
like
They needed a big Nazi villain to sort of.
So when he's first introduced, he's there smoking a cigar in like his room, like with a Hitler picture behind him.
I've got the Führer. Like he was like the most stereo. The thing is, though,
and he's like, I got a letter from the Führer. It's amazing, and all it says is like, all of Germany is with you, and he's like, he's proud of that, for fuck's sake.
Like, no, Lindemann. Lindemann was like such a cool dude.
A cunt.
So he was in the film. He was, again. I think they did my boy Lindemann dirty because Lindemann has one of the greatest lines in.
Yeah, I know they didn't include that line. It was so fucking iconic. I hated that part that they didn't include that.
They didn't include Piran. They didn't include that line. They didn't include like the guy hanging out the swordfish. And like when you look at like the actual history, like they leave a lot of shit out.
They did include how Lindemann and Lutyens had different opposing plans on how to break out the Atlantic. They did have that. So they did sort of set up the whole Lindemann and Lutyens.
They left out the fact that there was this scene where Kenneth Moore's like, oh, okay, if the smart decision would be to retreat back through the Denmark Strait to Norway because we can have U-boat cover out through here and we'll be far away from the Royal Navy and the air patrols and all that sort of thing. So that would be the safest move. But he's a Nazi, and so he'll lose face, and so he's got to go and fight on to France. And but no, in real life, the home fleet thought he would make the smart decision and run back to Norway. And fucking went for 100 miles in the wrong direction before the Catalina spotted him and went, oh shit, and turned home fleet around, which is why we needed Ark Royal. If we had made the same deduction that Kenneth Moore's character had made in the film, we would have been able to spot Bismarck with the Catalina and home fleet would have been 50 miles away. And so all that they would have had to have done was increase speed to flank and catch Bismarck and just sink her normally. Right? So like, you know, there's a lot of problems with Sink the Bismarck from a historical perspective, but it's made up for the sheer. They make up for it by capturing the sheer drama of the situation.
And the fact is, this was a big gun battleship film. This was a big gun battleship film. There was no other films like it. There was no other like big ship battleship. Oh, battleship fighting battleship. Oh, you want battleship fighting battleship. This is battleship fighting battleship. Yes, good. You know, they never. Really, you know,
Operation Rheinübung is really the only sort of major, like in the European theater, and really in the Pacific they only had one or two. Really, like you think of all these big ships during World War II, but in reality, there was only like 5 or 6 maybe huge battleship engagements during the entirety of World War II.
That's why I think my university dissertation, because I thought, I'll get tons of information on battleships because I love battleships. And then I was like, there's hardly fucking anything about the battleships information-wise that I'm looking for my dissertation question.
Yeah, because, you know, aircraft carriers are better. Dab. But like,
I wrote an essay on why they weren't.
No, look, the battleship is outdated. It's not comparable to a carrier in terms of hitting power, but they are way cooler. Battleships are cool. Battleships are 100% cooler than aircraft carriers. You won't get me telling you that they're not. Battleships are 100% cooler, but the aircraft carrier took over for a reason, my guy, which is
because some people are idiots who don't know that a battleship is superior.
To ask the Japanese, their 2 super battleships got their shit wrong
because they had shit AA guns. They had fucking awful AA guns. Do you know what Japanese anti-aircraft gun was in World War II? A man with a stick yelling, going, ah! That was their idea of radar guidance for anti-air. Literally watch the film Battleship Yamato. You'll see it. That's all it was.
Could you imagine being those poor bastards? Like, the Germans had the same problem with the flak veering. At least with us and like the pom-poms and the Bofors and shit like that, we had like huge magazines and huge storage.
Shit up, you know. Our anti-aircraft guns and the Americans were great. The fucking Japanese was awful, and the Germans was just, if anything's a biplane, we're fucked. And just so happens everything was literally a biplane.
aside
Try
from the
to
twin,
win them.
aside from the twin 37 mounts that the Germans had on their battleships, you can see them on Scharnhorst and Gneisenau in a couple of good photos. Like all of the flak Vierlings had the same problem as the fucking type. Well, I can't remember. Like it's a Type 19 or whatever AA gun. This triple barrel. They have magazines, and so you've got like 10 guys just running back and forth, like manually reloading these freaking AA guns, and they can't hit shit. They're not radar guided. So what are they gonna do? Plus, dude, the American 5-inch proximity anti-aircraft shell is one of the coolest things in the world because the Americans realized, hey, those proximity shells are detonated if they proxy to an aircraft, right? Yeah. What happens if they proxy to a palm tree? Oh. And so the destroyers would load anti-aircraft shells, sail up to the coast of a Japanese island. The Japanese would all be dug in their trenches ready to go. And then they would fire AA shells into the fucking trees above them, and the proximity shells would turn them into airburst frag. And just giant grenades, just boom, 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 boom. Dude. The Americans, dude, say what you want about our colonial peasant brethren. When they want to fuck shit up, the Americans are king. Which is one... Well, hey, that worked too. They just resorted to chemical weapons because, you know, you don't need forests. The Agent Orange is a beautiful thing. Anyway.
As we know, did you know Bell Helicopters almost went bankrupt before the Vietnam War? Isn't it a bit sus, as Mr. X told me?
I'm reliably informed that napalm sticks to kids. Anyway, but like back to Sink to Bismarck, it's one of those films where you like forgive all the historical inaccuracies because it's such a captivating story and it's so iconic that you really can't.
And it's like the film Battleship. If you watch the film Battleship, not taking it seriously, and just think it's a fun film to watch, it's just a summer blockbuster. It's great, and that's the same with Sink the Bismarck. If you watch the film Sink the Bismarck with the attitude of it's just a film to watch, it's nothing too much to take into account, you know.
One thing that I will say about the Sink the Bismarck has one of the few moments in naval history, right? In naval film history, we'll call it. One of the few moments where in a movie about a certain event or about a battle, a ship plays itself. Because HMS Victorious plays herself in Sink the Bismarck. Because HMS Victorious was used to be... Victorious was used to portray herself and Ark Royal. So, HMS Victorious...
Bismarck and Hood was portrayed by the last battleship ever made, HMS Vanguard.
A beautiful
right,
ship.
Doujin? Yeah, a great ship, by the way.
An incredible ship. Dude, HMS Vanguard is so cool. Like, come on.
Because many people shit on HMS Vanguard, and that's what annoys me. Because the fact is, they're like, HMS Vanguard is terrible. But the fact is, HMS Vanguard had the best fire support system, fire control system on any battleship, better than the Iowas.
Which is wild, considering how good Iowa's actually is. Because Iowa's fire control system is nuts, and the fact that Vanguard had a better one is just, bro. I don't even know. Do
you actually know how they got access to the ships for the film Sink the Bismarck?
They asked the Navy, didn't they?
It was because one of the producers was married to this woman whose father was called Louis Mountbatten. And they were like, yo, we want to make a film. Can we, like, you know, you're like the king of the Navy. Can we, like, borrow your boats for a bit? Okay. And he was actually there on Mountbatten's boat when Mountbatten bit the dust.
Poor old Mountbatten.
When you spoke against Margaret Thatcher and how her revenge for Mountbatten's death.
Yeah, but like, I'm not going to comment on this. I'm not going to say anything. My response to this whole discussion is simple, and you know what it is, OC?
What?
Come out, ye black and tans. Come out and fight me like a man.
Yeah,
show your wife how you won medals.
The black and tans did fight, and do you know what they did? The IRA hid behind women and children, and they blew up children.
You know what? L plus ratio, bro.
What do you mean L plus ratio? What the fuck? You can't say L plus ratio.
Yes, I can.
Why is it that the Americans are like, oh yeah, the IRL, they're freedom fighters, even though they're blowing people up, they're killing civilians, they're freedom fighters. Yet when a bunch of freedom fighters I'm not going to make a comment because I'm going to get cancelled. You know what I'm referring to. They were like, no, we're going to invade it. We're going to fucking kill the guy who was, but it's like the biggest irony ever.
I would simply say there's a big difference because we're still occupying Ireland and we shouldn't be.
Not really when, sort of Titanic was built in Belfast and Titanic.
I cannot wait for Scotland to declare its independence.
They're not going to. We've already given it, and they haven't they're like, oh no, we're too much of a pussy to vote for independence.
Oh no! Like, have you seen what's coming out of Scotland recently? Like, it looks like the SNP are actually gonna fucking do it. If those mad lads actually do it, I wonder what's gonna happen to like Holy Loch and like the Clyde and all that, different things. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen because they're gonna have to move all the Trafalgars. I'm like wondering where they're gonna put them.
Also, with Scotland, it's if they go independent, how long are they gonna last by themselves? Yeah, we've got oil. Great, that's gonna last you for about 40 years. Then you're gonna run out of the oil.
You know what? They're gonna do? What they're gonna do is they're gonna pull a Greece. That's right, Kuro. I'm calling you out, bro. One of my patrons.
EU, can you please give me more money? Yeah, sure, we'll give you tons of money.
100%. That's what's going to happen. The Scots are going to ask the Germans for money.
Because that's the French for you.
Fucking frogs.
I've just paid my bills.
Yeah.
Anyway,
do we have another movie to talk?
Let's just move on to the next movie.
There's one more.
The last movie. The last
movie. Because we've just sunk the Bismarck. Great movie. Rating for Bismarck, 10 out of 10. Yeah.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
Actually, you know what? No, we're gonna have
8.
I gave it you know what? I'll give it a 9 for nostalgia. Just for nostalgia.
I'll give it an 8.
You never seen it.
It's the last one, the last movie, the finest World War II movie ever, the pinnacle of World War II cinema, and genuinely just one of the greatest technical achievements in aviation filmmaking ever. The Battle of Britain, which I watch every year without fail. Actually, that opening credit sequence is still to this day. It's one of the greatest opening, that opening sequence. That's
why.
Dude, it's just one of those moments. Like, think about it this way, right? The way they open that film, where it's like you have the Messerschmitt strafing the Hurricanes on the ground, like the Hurricanes bugger off and try and get away, and the other aircraft are left there. The Messerschmitt 109 strafe the airfield. They run away. They bug out of France, and then it cuts to you Dowding, right? Walking down the hallway, and it's it's like it reads out the letter to all of that sort of thing, and then you just go they've got the Germans marching through France.
Shows Dunkirk, the beaches, and it
shows General Weygand calls the Battle of France is over. The Battle of Britain is about to begin, and it just slam cuts.
Yeah,
that is epic as fuck.
Right, it just shows the JU. I want to say.
No, you're wrong already. You're wrong out the gate.
What is it?
Those are not JUs. They are not Junkers aircraft.
Is it? I thought it was a Junker. The propeller one.
The 3 propeller one is the Junkers 52. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because that's the first one. It shows a Junkers thingy, and then it shows Heinkel's. It shows them landing. It shows them going past Heinkel's, and then thingy, and yeah, it's just great. The opening is great. That's why I mentioned before about the openings of Das Boot, of Kelly Zeroes, and of Battle of Britain. All 3 have got great. When a good opening to a war film plays, you're in for a good war film. And with Battle of Britain, from the opening, you're in for a good war film.
It's the best, in my opinion. It's my favorite of the movies I've selected. Mainly because it is the first movie I physically remember watching. Of all the movies I've ever seen in my life, The Battle of Britain is the first one I can physically remember watching it. I watched it at age 3 And if you want to know when that was,
1956. The film wasn't even
I
made then.
I first saw the Battle of Britain at age 3 in the year of 1997.
Oh my god.
I was age 3 in 1997, and I physically remember watching the Battle of Britain. Like, this is before, like, I was a fan of Battle of Britain. I watched Battle of Britain so much as a kid. I watched it on VHS tape.
Oh my god.
I wore out my VHS copy of Battle of Britain twice. We recorded it on TV twice, and I wore out both tapes. We eventually got a DVD player, and that was really expensive back in the day. We got the DVD special edition of Battle of Britain with all of the extra content, all of the interviews, all of the director's commentaries, all of that. We got everything, right? And I watched everything about the Battle of Britain. I watched it over and over again. There's even scratches on the disc. The disc doesn't work properly anymore. I stream it these days because the disc is
on YouTube for free.
Yeah, I know, right? It's great. Like, the Battle of Britain is a movie that I have watched over and over and over again. And as I said, like, I had watched that movie maybe 30 to 40 times before 9/11. To give you perspective from the age group of our audience, right?
Jeez.
I remember thinking about this movie now. I remember as a little kid LARPing as one of the Luftwaffe pilots because
Why did you laugh at the Luftwaffe? Huh?
Because there was a scene right at the start. Where the Luftwaffe pilots are all hanging out and joking around.
Yeah.
And he goes to have a shower and he has a towel around his neck. I used to hang a towel around my neck sometimes. And I used to wear it like a scarf with like there's a really great photo of me as a little kid which I've got somewhere. Where I'm like maybe 4 or 5 years old. I'm in my pajamas and I have one of my mum's flowery scarves wrapped around my neck like a pilot scarf. And I'm wearing a pair of swimming goggles as flying goggles. I'm like standing there heroically looking like a pilot. Like, this movie was everything to me as a little kid. The Messerschmitts, the Spitfires, the theme, like din din like when the Spitfires are shooting down the Heinkels and doing victory rolls. I was like, yes, go team.
And what I love about it, which I'm gonna bring back to Sink Film Sink Bismarck a bit. What I love about it is how British this film is.
Oh yeah, it's obnoxiously British.
One of the pilots gets shot out the sky, bails out of his aircraft, parachutes down into a garden, crashes into a garden, and what does he say?
He gets given a cigarette by the kid, and he's like, "Thanks awfully, Chad."
Yeah, that's what happens. Is that kid runs in, gets out a cigar. I got confused with Dunkirk because in Dunkirk he says, "Good morning" to them after when the pilot almost drowns and he gets out the aircraft, and he says, "Good morning" to them. The most British thing to do, because and very similar in the film Sink the Bismarck. There was British moments as well when it's been like, "Oh well, we're in a spot of bother when we're getting like shot at and stuff."
Yeah.
But in the film Battle of Britain, amazing. And there's one scene with people. I'm just gonna say it. Right, repeat, please.
Repeat, please. I say again. 2, 3, 0. Repeat, please. The Poles are badasses. Like 3.
And then he just says to them, "There's like Heineken," and then he just sees these like Spitfires like coming behind it, and the Polish are like da, 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 and they're speaking in it like "Hey," and he's like, "Shut up" in Polish.
Silence in Polish. Stop that Polish chatter and steer 2, 3, 0. Repeat, please. I can probably do that whole film from memory. Even the German bits. I can remember the German bits like, "Hello, Kesselring, if you make me inspect one more bomber, I won't recommend you for promotion. Continue the inspection without you, sir. Herr General." Like the bit where like I remember that whole film like off the top of my head. Like
If
I
ever
can
a bomb falls on Berlin, you may call me Maya. And then they just air raid sirens and British bombers. And then they're like, well, I guess we can call him Maya. And then it cuts to Hitler doing a speech. And he's like, these pieces of shit, fuck them. Fuck the British. If they fucking drop 10,000...
that is a real speech. That is a real speech. And that is
and he says, then we'll do 1 million bombs in one single night. And then it cuts again to Goering turning up like, right, that's it. I'm sorting this shit out. You know, it's...
You know, if I said it before, I was saying it to my friend before I jumped on the recording here, and I'm saying it again, because while we were watching Sink the Bismarck, I was kind of explaining why the Luftwaffe wasn't present so much because of building up for Barbarossa and like rebuilding after the Battle of Britain and all that sort of thing. And I was sort of like North Africa, the conquest of Yugoslavia and Greece and Crete and everything like that. I was explaining that to her, and I was like talking about this, and I'm like, when I got onto the topic of like, she was like, why are they in such this bad situation? I'm like, if there is one man, well, I'm glad he was in charge because the Nazis almost certainly lost the war because of it. If there is one man in this world who I hate on a, quote, professional level more than anyone else, it is Hermann fucking Goering. I hate that man. He is vain. He is vain. He is self-obsessed. He's politically scheming. He's cowardly. He's fucking shit. He wears nail polish. He wears fucking makeup. He's fatter than I am, and that's saying something. He is completely incompetent, taking morphine like a drug fiend, lets his men fucking die. Like, dude.
Yeah, but he had a
like,
pet tiger.
I mean, yeah, fair. He had a pet lion, not tigers. They were lions.
Lion. He was fucking cool. He had a pet lion. He appreciated art. You know, he was just fucking...
Appreciated art by pillaging it all. Like,
and then his daughter was like, oi, that belongs to me. And the French were like, no, it doesn't. Why do you think you claim it? Because my daddy got it from me. I can't believe the fact that Himmler's daughter and fucking Goering's daughter were like, yo, all that shit we stole, yeah, that's ours. But technically, the Mona Lisa does not belong to the French, because we all know who stole the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
French version of Hitler, Napoleon. And the French are going to be like, why? The French are just wondering, why do we keep shitting on the French in this podcast?
But Napoleon was annoying, and the reason why Napoleon is annoying is simple.
He didn't fucking die.
No, Napoleon was too based to be Napoleon, TBH.
But did you know that Napoleon killed a larger population of the world than Hitler ever did? That's a fun fact for you.
Source, please.
Fucking source, please. I could put. Someone told me that.
That's a nice argument, Senator. But how about you back it up with a source?
I made it.
My source is I made it the fuck up. Oh no, but like for real, no, that's bullshit. Fucking Napoleon's spreading of the Napoleonic Code did more to spread democracy and like the idea of personal liberty and freedom throughout Europe. But like
the French Revolution happened. They were like, okay, we sort out this democracy, and then Napoleon turns up like, right, I'm going to be absolute leader. I'm in charge of this. I'm in charge of that. I'm in charge of this. I'm going to
Napoleonic Code.
Literally French version of Hitler.
The Napoleonic Code had more progressive reforms. Had more progressive reforms for the civil liberties of the populace than any set of laws before, and formed the basis of modern constitutional democracy and constitutional monarchy in Europe. Like, even the British democracy is different because it's basically the aristocracy tells us to do whatever the fuck we're supposed to, and we supposedly have power, but the lords have total veto over everything anyway. Whereas, like, the French Republic, for all its faults, and there are a lot of fucking faults with the French Republic.
Tony Blair got us in the Iraq War, and that wasn't aristocracy. That was Tony Blair fucking up. And he was communist. He was Labour, so, you know.
Calling Tony Blair proper Labour is like calling fucking Margaret Thatcher is like calling Margaret Thatcher a progressive. Like, no.
Progressive in a way.
Did you ever see, like, we're horrendously off topic, but do you see that scene in The Crown where she's like, oh, as you're the new as you're the first female prime minister, do you want women in your cabinet? Oh, good lord, no. I find that women are too unsuitable for cabinet positions. I prefer men, and because the women are so temperamental, you know, you're the first female prime minister. Oh yes, but I'm also a conservative, and I think, you know, all these like, oh, I fucking hate that.
You know
woman.
what's funny? You know what's
The only good thing she did was the Falklands. It's literally the only good thing she did.
You know what's funny? Is the Conservative Party has had 2 female prime ministers and will either have a 3rd female prime minister or a Muslim prime minister or an ethnic minority prime minister. Meanwhile, Labour, all white men, suck my dick, Labour. Not a single female prime minister from Labour, not a single prime minister of ethnicity. Even fucking Lib Dems had a more ethnic prime minister, and that was the fucking, what was he called? The guy who was in charge during World War One. Whatever. David Lloyd George. He was fucking a taffy. He was a Welshman, and that's more fucking thingy than, okay, yeah, Labour put a Scottish guy in place. Oh yeah, who because Tony Blair fucked up the country, who did a shit job, who couldn't get the country back, and they had to be sorted by a guy who fucks pigs. And the Conservatives, yes, okay, but yeah.
We're supposed to be talking about Battle of Britain. Huh?
Yeah, all right, Battle of Britain. Going back to that, Michael
Actually,
Caine.
You know what? That is a battle for Britain. Technically, there's a Battle of Britain going on right now.
Michael Caine, Battle of Britain. Yes and no, maybe. They made a mistake with the film. Should we spoil it?
Which one?
About Michael Caine's character. The one issue I have with it.
They killed him off.
Yeah, they killed him off. That's the only issue. Robert Shaw was in it was fucking amazing because it's Robert fucking Shaw, Martin Hessler, Quint from Jaws, fucking Robert Shaw. Amazing that. In fact, you had a great cast. You had Kenneth More. You had Robert Shaw. You had what the fuck is he called? The guy who's from John Wick. He played Lovejoy.
I mean, looking back at the of the cast, you have like the cast of Battle of Britain is probably one of the best casts of British film in history.
Ian McShane, that was it.
You also had Laurence Olivier as Hugh Dowding. You had Trevor Howard as Keith Park. You had
Michael Caine, Ian McShane, Robert Shaw, Kenneth More.
You had Susanna York. You had Christopher Plummer. Oh, I'm trying to remember his name. What was his fucking name? He was. It's hurting. Trying to remember his name. Fucking off the top of my head. You know the guy who played the like. Can't remember his name. He was a very famous actor. He played General Horrocks in A Bridge Too Far. He played the assassin in Day of the Jackal. Right? I can't remember his name.
The Day of the Jackal.
The one where it's an assassin who tries to assassinate Charles de Gaulle, and God, I wish he'd succeeded.
Oh yeah, we fucking hate Charles de Gaulle. We hate French. Edward Fox.
That's it. Fox. Edward Fox. That's the guy. Absolutely incredible actor. Like the cast for this movie, bro, and the
He's
flight.
Still alive,
dude. The flight sequences of Battle of Britain.
Oh yeah.
No CGI here, boys.
Yeah, no CGI. It was done using models and actual real aircraft.
Yeah, they originally did build like mock-up Stukas out of like I can't remember. I think they were Vultee aircraft. And like the test pilot took them up and was like, "Bro, this with all the attachments you put on here to make this look like a Stuka, man, this ain't fucking safe, bro." Like, okay, we'll have to use models. But there's one thing about the Battle of Britain that I really love more than anything. They got all the veterans of the Battle of Britain, who were all still alive at the time, to be technical advisors on the film. All of them. And what's really cool about that is freaking... What's really cool about that is you have Adolf Galland. Adolf
Yeah.
Galland
Yes.
was the advisor for the German side on the Battle of Britain. And he went through a number of different parts of how this happened, like what was going on through the German side and how this was going on. But he also advised on the flying sequences, right? How the German tactics worked, what their formations looked like, how they would fly, what they would do. And like he advised the flying guys, who are a bunch of Texans actually, who they bought the BF-109s off the Spanish Air Force. And they were flown by a bunch of Texans who would later take them back to the US and either convert them into proper Messerschmitts or they would be flown as Bouchon. HA-112 Bouchons, right? Anyway, bit of aeroplane trivia for you. Spanish built BF-109s, but which is why they all have Merlin engines instead of Daimler-Benz engines. Just in case you're wondering why the 109's engines in that movie look weird, it's because they've got Merlins instead of Daimler-Benz because Merlin had a contract with the Spanish Air Force. Anyway, besides all that.
Because Spanish was a fascist country, for all those you didn't know. At that point, the only one that survived.
Yep. So here's the thing. When they were making that movie, one of the camera ships they used to film like the Messerschmitts, they had lots of great shots in that movie of other Messerschmitts from inside the cockpit of a Messerschmitt. That's because they had a trainer Messerschmitt, which they rigged, a 2-seat trainer Messerschmitt, which they rigged up with camera, right? And there's this great story that is one of my favorite stories. During the filming, right? They're all at the airfield and they're filming the flight sequences that day. The aircraft all land and then they park, they get out. And they're all in the at the bar at the airport, they're chilling. All right? And then even though filming is gone for the day, they're like sitting there, they hear an engine start up, right? They go out, they hear an engine start up and they're like, wait, are we still flying? Oh, it might be just an engine run up or something, or a test. Wait, okay, no. So, they hear an engine run up, and all of a sudden, they hear an aircraft take off. Hang on a minute. We don't have any more flights today. And they're on a private airport. They're on a private airport. They're on a private field, right? So they're not in an active aerodrome. And then all of a sudden, they hear engine noise over their head. And this aircraft flies low over the officers' club, right? Over the bar that they're at the airfield. I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck? So everyone goes outside. And there is this BF-109 flying over the airfield. And it is doing maneuvers that airplane should not be able to do. It's pulling ridiculous cheese. It's doing barrel rolls, flips. It's doing corkscrews. It's doing climbing turns. It's doing like this aircraft is literally being flown as though it is going to fall to pieces, right? And it does maneuvers which the pilot's on the ground and he's doing them at like 100 feet. Like this guy could die at any time. And he is flying this 109 to the absolute edge of its ability. There is no human way that this aircraft can stay flying. Eventually, he pulls up into this incredible loop, does a corkscrew turn, and does a spin all the way down. When he levels out, flies at top speed out the bottom of the spin, and then just does a roll, pulls up, comes down, drops the flaps, drops the landing gear, and lands, and taxis to where the 109 was parked. And out hops Adolf Galland, who had stolen the 109 because he wasn't allowed to fly. He was just a technical advisor. He hadn't had his pilot's license for years. He hadn't gotten certified by the FAA or by the German equivalent of the FAA to fly again. He was just like a German war veteran who just had his pilot's qualifications from World War II. He stole a 109 from the production crew and beat the living hell out of the airfield in it. Like, showing all these fucking Yankee filmmakers how it's done, boys. Just like, nah. All these Yankee and British filmmakers think they've got some stunt pilots. I'll show them what real flying is like. And this man went ham. And how they filmed the Battle of Britain is incredible. I've actually seen the aircraft that they filmed it from, the B-25. They retrofitted a B-25 into a camera ship. It got restored down here in Australia. I've seen it. It's still cool. My dad actually watched the Battle of Britain being filmed. He's that old. Way back in the day.
Nice.
He was a teenager at summer camp when Battle of Britain was being filmed, so he saw the Spitfires attacking the Heinkel and all that over the coast while he was on holiday there. So
Yeah, that reminds me of, because the Spitfire is such an iconic aircraft, and the Battle of Britain really brings the iconic aircraft to life. Because I remember I was at Family's Day recently, this August, and I was running back. I was going back to my car to put some books away that I'd bought at the store there on RAF Alley. And suddenly I heard the presenter being like rah, 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 into the mic, and then I heard Spitfire Mark 1 Merlin engine, and I was like, what, there's a plane with that's flying a Spitfire, that's flying the same engine as a Spitfire. I was like, oh, that looks like a training aircraft. And it was a training aircraft. But then I could hear the training aircraft was buggering off, so it went into land. So I thought, okay, that's the plane. And then I could hear this fake drone, this iconic coming, and I could just see in the distance this aircraft, this blue aircraft just headed our way. And this thing is literally doing essentially what Out of Galan did with the fucking BF-109. I rushed back from my car to take pictures of it, and this thing is going up, it's going down, it's doing loop-to-loop, it's corkscrewing, it's going past the airfield once, it's going past the airfield twice. It's, it's just performing beautifully, this aircraft. And eventually it lands, and everyone was really hyped for it, and it was an amazing aircraft, and it had such an iconic engine sound. And really, with the film Battle of Britain, it does that. It really brings the Spitfire to it, because the Spitfire is associated as the aircraft that saved Britain.
Even though # justice for the Hurricane.
Yeah, the Hurricane kind of looks ugly in comparison to the Spitfire. It doesn't have a
in comparison to the Spitfire, yes. But I was going to, don't you dare talk bad about Sidney Cam's greatest invention. My God. Actually, I'm lying. Sidney Cam invented better airplanes than the Hurricane, but still, it's so good. But yeah, look, the Spitfire was literally my third word. I'm not even kidding. It actually was, because I knew what a Spitfire looked like before I knew what cars looked like. I have actually. You want to know what's funny? Circling back to a random piece of trivia that I forgot to mention while we were talking about Sink the Bismarck. You know how you talked about when you were a kid, you watched Sink the Bismarck and you were like, "How cool is that?" Just to dox you a little bit, OC. What year were you born?
2000.
You were born in the year 2000.
Yep.
Okay. So, I learned the story of the Bismarck before you were born. Holy shit!
Wait, what? When? I learned about. Oh wait, no. You said before I was born. So if it was 1990 something,
I was born in 94, right? And I remember in the year 2000, I was at, like, 1999 is when I started school, right? 1996 is when I started big school. Like, I was out of like reception and into year 1, and we had the school library, and Robert Ballard's picture book of the battleship Bismarck was in the library. And I remember reading Robert Ballard's book. I'm pretty like
that is how it
I'm pretty
except it happened differently. I was 3 years old. I don't know if I was 4 when I discovered Bismarck, but I know I was 3 with the other ship. And we had a TV, but we had in the TV these 2 books, and one of them was of this ship. It was sunken, it was underwater, and I was like, wow, what the fuck is this? Titanic. What's a Titanic when that's at home? 3-year-old me was like, what the fuck is this? I like the picture of it, and then, yeah. But I found the Bismarck book underneath the Titanic book, and there's probably an alternative universe out there where I found the Bismarck book on top of the Titanic book, and if that happened, we'd be fucked. Because my favourite ship of all time is not Bismarck, it's actually Titanic. And I love Titanic more than anything. And the issue is, if I discovered Bismarck before Titanic, then Bismarck would be number 1. And every single online argument in the world about Bismarck would be invaded by me. So, you're welcome, world, for me discovering Titanic first.
Yeah. But Battle of Britain, to this day, God, I can't think of a movie I love more. Like, really. Like, as far as war movies go, there's no other way to put it. It's the best British war movie. I have to make that claim. I have to make that claim.
Saying, actually, the Italian Job is the best British war movie. No, it's not. It's a war with the Italians that we won. Fuck you. Zulu is the best war movie with British.
Okay, look. To be real, to be on the real.
Just say the best World War II British plane film ever. There we go. Job done.
Actually, you know what? That's not even true because if you're talking about specific plane films,
Don't you
we
dare
then
say
have to
what I
talk
think.
about.
I'm going to say the dog's
Oh.
name. I'm going to say the dog's name. Do not make me say the dog's name on. You know exactly what film.
Don't you fucking dare! You'll get a
I'm going to say the dog's name.
Yep. But yes, that
Really?
film
I
is
don't say
iconic.
that. That is iconic, definitely. Dam Busters is an iconic film, but I wouldn't say it's.
Is it better than the Battle of Britain? I don't think so. But like
No.
at the same time,
Black and white, iconic.
You see, that's the thing. Because like when I think of the Battle of Britain,
And what's crazy is that the thing is that in the film they had to censor the film, the Dam Busters, because the British government didn't want the people finding out how they actually use bouncing bombs. So they didn't want to know what it looked like, so they just used a black blob. It was just a black blob going blim, blim, when in reality they were barrels. They weren't like this round bomb that is depicted in the film.
yeah, and that's the weird thing because I always growing up I always loved the Dam Busters so much, and I think one of the main reasons why was just
Kill the
the
dog.
oh yeah, but the dog's a good boy. He's a good boy.
To that poor car.
So yeah.
No.
Always there's always a car involved, right? At least it wasn't the police. And
At
anyway,
least cars. Wait, what?
if you know, you know, right? There's a big controversy around the original Dam Busters film. As we said, look up the name of Wing Commander Gibson's dog.
It's like Schrodinger's cat. Was it Schrodinger's? No, not Schrodinger's.
No, Schrodinger's cat is a different thing entirely. The cat is neither dead nor alive until you can confirm it.
Unless it's a tomboy. No, not a tomboy, because that thing was a male cat girl in Helsing Ultimate.
What is this tangent, bro? Like seriously,
I don't know how the fuck do we get. Oh yeah, Dam Busters.
Dam Busters. Like seriously though, like Dam Busters is like I would put Dam Busters on the rank of like. You see, the thing is, Battle of Britain is so iconic for me because it's a historical movie that tells the historical story, right? But at the same time, if you're talking what's a better movie to watch in terms of like a plot and a structure, Dam Busters I think is better.
Also, Dam Busters has a better theme.
Yeah, 100. Oh, I don't know. I don't know because the British victory theme of Battle of Britain, like da, 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 da. When I'm flying flight simulators and I'm attacking German bombers in an air, I'm flying a Spitfire, shooting at Heinkel's, and I play that on full blast, I feel like a god, right? So like I don't know. I think it's a tie. I think the Dam Busters March is iconic, but you've got two. That's only one banger. The British attack theme, the British victory theme, and the Luftwaffe March from Battle of Britain are two bangers. So I think the British theme and the German theme from Battle of Britain versus the Dam Busters March won. One thing I would say is Robert Redgrave's portrayal of Barnes Wallis is so good. Like Barnes Wallis in the Dam Busters, like that was great. I love how we said we were only going to talk about like these few movies, and then we've just like talked about every. We need to do a full episode on all the other war movies we like. But how long have we been going now? How long have we been recording? We must have been.
I'd say about probably over 2 hours.
Yeah, over 2 hours. So I think
almost 3.
The longest episode of the podcast.
Woo! We've got to edit a couple of bits out. So like,
speak
probably.
of which, we have now hit 1,000 subscribers on the channel.
Which means if we get our watch time up, we can monetize.
So watch the fucking video, you twats.
Yeah, watch the fucking videos. So we can... Because if we get monetized, we can put this podcast channel in the algorithm. And the algorithm will push us.
And actually, maybe the chapters will finally work instead of YouTube being a dick. And I can actually contact Creator Support and being like, give me my bloody chapters, because I want my timestamps.
Anyway, guys, I guess that's all the war movies. Like, Doujin God has been completely out of this whole conversation because he's like, He's not seen any of these movies, and he's
We just
not.
we just mentioned the Finnish one, and it was just me talking shit about it, being like, "Yeah, it is."
This, you know what? This is what you want to see. This is what a hentai addiction does to you, kids. You get left out of these cool conversations.
Yeah,
You can't talk to your friends.
he could have been talking about Nazis and freedom fighters and Margaret Thatcher, but no, instead
No. You could have been talking about Spitfires and daring raids on castle fortresses. You could have been, but no, you're sitting there thinking about anime titty. And what has it gotten you, Doujin? What has it gotten to you? You're a man who puts his hentai listings on his mal. What has this gotten you, my friend? What has this gotten you?
I don't have one of those.
My anime list. That should be another episode. We roast each other's my anime list because we were doing that before the podcast, and that'll be a funny episode. Because Doujin, you get to see Doujin's tastes, and boy,
It's
like
good.
you think OC's on a watch list, man. Of all the three people here, I'm a far left activist who's been active with trade unions in doing some certain sketchy shit, which I can't talk about in public. OC is bordering on, I don't know, he basically
He's against the government.
He's practically a member of the Spicy Pinwheel gang. And you've got Doujin God here, like, between Spicy Pinwheel gang and potential far left terrorist, you've got, of all the three of us who are most likely to be on a watch list, it's Doujin. Doujin, you, special branch, are going to look into you, my guy. They're going to find you. They're going to find you. Because I've seen your tags. Bro, my guy. My G.
Orc dick.
OC was doing it for the memes, but you're doing this unironically, and I'm worried about you, man. Stop. Get some help. I guess that's just about it. Are we going to say anything else? You going to say anything else?
I think I like war. I do not like war. I love war. Throughout my entire life, I've discovered many forms of war. No, do you not know what that's from?
Oh boy. I know what that's from.
We used to call that so much. Me and this other guy I knew who was parchment.
That's the song for tonight's celebrations was chosen for ironic reasons.
The best
reasons. All right. I have been Posadas Pac-Man, aka Pac-Man, aka Animarchy. That's my old nickname from way back in my Lefty Pole 4chan posting days. For those of you who have been members of my channel for that long, I doubt if any of them are still around. When I drop my next big video essay, they won't be around because that's me having a spicy take, but that's a fun one. You'll find out about that one. We have the Omega Casual, everyone's favorite watch list member, Doujin God 78. See, that's his real name. We've got Omega Casual Gangsta out here, rocking that drip. Well, I mean, we've had a fun podcast. Anything you'd like to say, Doujin, in your defense?
Fuck Arsenal.
How's it feel down there, Man City?
Fuck off.
Top of the league, undefeated so far.